of those persons that get notifications because I send it out on Facebook, and then I do send some specific messages via WhatsApp to persons who I have a definite contact for. And so that way, for this person, and it was a female person, I would make sure that you are individually notified if I am not going to be here, but also I'll send you the weekly posts. And so I think I've done all my intros. So for tonight, the post this evening that I sent out today was in fact talking about the violence. We all are aware that Bermuda is going through what is definitely some unprecedented violence. And yes, there is a significant human impact. There is a significant social impact. But for Insight is intended to be a financial program, financial literacy. Okay. And so therefore, tonight we're going to talk generally about the violence, but we're going to have a focus on the impact that it's having on businesses, and in particular, the businesses in the Northeast Hamilton area, because that's having a significant impact. And our guest this evening, who is Ms. Roxanne Christopher and Mr. Elmore Warren, they need no introduction really, because everybody knows who you are. They know the work that you've been doing. Both of you have been doing it for a significant period of time. And so that is why they're here. They can speak from experience. They can speak from those who are in the community. They can speak from themselves being out and about and knowing what's going on, which is more than many in the community can do. My concern is that in many instances, we are speaking at the problem, but we're not really engaging those that really have first-hand knowledge. And so tonight, I hope that's what we're able to do. I also advise the listening audience that this is not necessarily about everybody having the same thought, what I call groupthink. This is really about having a real conversation. Opinions and facts will be discussed, and certainly we'll open up the airways for persons to call in and contact us if they want. People know that already. They can call in, or they can send messages rather, to the WhatsApp number on 538-8683. And then later on, I'll give a notice when people can call in on 297-1027. And then we'll take it. And persons are also directly on Facebook, on live, and they can send their messages there. So I trust that with those three opportunities, people will be able to fully engage. Last comment before I start is this. Earlier this week, I had opportunity to talk to someone, and I was referring to what many of us learned some time ago, and that's what's referred to as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And that's a general concept, I want to say. And it says that for all of us as individuals, we have an idea of we want to do certain things, right? However, fundamentally, you have to start from scratch. And scratch would be things such as you need to have food. You need to be able to provide these basic things that you need in life, food and shelter, effectively, because in the absence of having a sensible food supply and shelter, you can't do all these other things that we want to do. And so, for example, in Bermuda's context, if a child actually comes to school and they're hungry and they've been sleeping in a car, for example, you cannot really expect them to, when you walk in the door, turn on and learn something, because they have a different focus. They may be worried about the fact that, guess what, I had no breakfast, or they might be worried about the fact that I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight, or if I'm going to have food tonight. And so that's a whole different perspective on what they can do and how prepared they are. If you look at them in the context of a child that's coming in from, living at home, had breakfast, proper clothes, all that kind of thing. And so we have to understand that.
I would like to interject here.
Hold on. You give a chance to interject. She's ready. That's Miss Christopher. She's ready. But tell her, hold on. This is my open spiel. And so that is an interesting concept, right? And in Bermuda, some of these schools do have what we call a food program. And there have been some who have suggested that there should be a food program that's open to everybody, whereby government should provide food to every single child. Yeah. There are some different concepts on that, but we're not going to go into that right now. I just want to make the point that there is the thought that until we can make sure that people have their fundamental needs met, we cannot expect them to do other things. And the other things would include such as love and belonging. You cannot expect me, this is the theory by the way, you cannot expect Anthony to start to demonstrate love and caring if I am fundamentally hungry, if I am still worried about where I stay, if I'm worried about, for example, I may be at a home whereby there's violence or dysfunction, right? And so this is not about any individual perspective, societal perspective. It's just a general comment that is relevant. And then beyond that, you get to this idea of esteem, right? And that's where feeling good about yourselves, but the point I'm trying to make again is, if Anthony, as a young person or as an older person, if I don't know about where I'm going to eat or I'm going to sleep, I cannot do all these other things. And certainly, Anthony cannot have this idea of reaching my full potential if these fundamentals are not even recognized. And so I'm going to refer to this every so often as we go through, because I think it's an important context for us to use. And I will go on a layered right and say this also, which I'll come back to a couple times tonight, is that even when it comes to the people, and the mostly young males, when they are acting out violently, the question is there an actual or perceived absence of some of these fundamentals in their life? And if those things fundamentally are not present, and we're saying, okay, fine, Anthony, do all these other things like education and aspire and whatever the case may be. If I don't have these actual fundamentals done, whether actual or perceived, how can you really expect me to do those things? And so part of my question tonight also is, are we asking the right questions in terms of trying to get to these solutions? So that's my opening spiel, and I'm going to say this again a few times tonight. And now I'll start the way I normally start, which is for each of our guests, again, it's Ms. Roxanne Christopher and Mr. Elmore Warren, to introduce themselves. And then Ms. Christopher, she's just check a bit to go for it. But first and first, let's talk about who are you in that context, and then we can go for it. And your expertise in the context of the Northeast Hamilton. So go for it.
For those who don't know, I'm Roxanne.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm a daughter of the block, right?
Okay.
I've been on the block now since I was probably 3-4 years old. I was sitting on my mother's steps, and we had the riots in the 70s. Eat my annihilators, watching all the fighting, watching the smashing of the windows, watching the bus pushed on the hill by TCD, and I'm a child of the block, right?
Okay.
My mother had a business on Court Street for 45 years, up until her death. I had mine for 21 years. And I closed by chance, literally the December right before COVID started. So I've been, Elmore and I actually started the North Hamilton Business Association together many years ago, because we knew that we had to have powers in unity, powers in numbers. Why was there trash pickup once a day on North Hamilton, but twice a day in Greater Hamilton, and we're paying the same rate of tax per square foot as Greater Hamilton? We had to take on all those institutions. Why was it that if your address was 53 Court Street as opposed to 53 Front Street, was your business loan denied? So all of those things had to be addressed. And I'm not saying that Elmo and I always agree on everything, because that's something that I think kind of keeps us as friends all these years, because we can agree to disagree, but we have the same goal in mind. Northeast Hamilton is the Mecca of Black wealth. It's the Mecca of Black history. There is no other part of the island that can replicate the energy of North Hamilton. There's no other part of the island that gives you that warm feeling in your belly when you're walking on the block. I'm quite sure most households in this country have the fondest memory of at some point being at Spinnerville. Right? I'm quite sure that most households in this country remember the block parties after 24th of May. There is no place in Bermuda that has the fashion and the style of North Hamilton. And as a business owner, as an advocate of the area, I want to say I've always been a community advocate. It's just what I know. It's what my household knows. You didn't have an option. But when I was at TCD, when I first opened up my business in 1999, my business was first on Teals Hill. And my then minister, my boss, Dr. Hewitt Brown, would actually come to Tips and get his nails and his feet done. And of course, yeah, he did. And I would often, of course, be at the ministry, as I was the road safety officer at that time. And one day he said to me, this is when the ministry was in Global House, And he said, Roxy, what can we do about Court Street? What can we do to change Court Street, change the perception, improve economic activity, support the business owners? What can we do? He said, if I buy some paint, do you think that's how it all started. Do you think the business owners will paint, the property owners will paint the buildings? Because most of the business owners were not the property owners. And so at that point, Elmo and I, boots on the ground, literally ran around to all of the property owners to see if Dr. Brown purchased the paint and will they pay for the labor to get the paint on the buildings, because a lot of the paint was peeling, patches, bubbles in the paint, etc. Anyway, it was done. That started the conversation of, can this become a little part of New Orleans? How? Because as I said, North Hamilton, Court Street has its own energy. It's not like Somerset. It's not like St. George's. It's not like Front Street. It's its own demographic, its own energy, its own je ne sais quoi. And how can we continue to support the business owners but make it viable, give them access to the resources that they need? Because one thing that we didn't want to hand out. We wanted access to be at the same table. We just wanted access. Give us the opportunity to show ourselves. Anyway, that was actually we started the focus groups and the brainchild of that's how the economic empowerment zone came to fruition. And so Dr. Brown, he literally picked me out of TCD and was like, Roxanne, now you're going to the economic empowerment zone because you were an academic that had the business and real life experience of Northeast Hamilton, had the lifelong relationships, knew where the cracks were, knew where the strengths were, had the relationships with the business owners, the property owners, the guys that put the elephant bottles on the Christmas tree by Places Place Parking Lot. There ain't no other place that has a Christmas tree of elephant bottles. There ain't no. That's a part of Northeast Hamilton. And that's one way how the EEZ actually came to happen. EEZ meaning the Economic Empowerment Zone. The Economic Empowerment Zone, the designation is then developed into the Economic Empowerment Zone Agency. And when we realized that Northeast Hamilton, St. George's, and Somerset all were different, they needed different support systems. Anyway, that's a part of how I started. And going back to
one quick comment. Someone sent a comment in already, a young person.
Yes.
And her question is, what is the block?
The block.
And it's just, the person is about, I think, maybe 12 years old.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. The block is from Victoria and Court.
So 12 years old. So where's Victoria and Court?
Okay. People's Pharmacy, the police station.
Okay.
Down until Court and North Street. A lot of people, I didn't know it was North Street until I worked at TCD. North Street is the street that TCD is on.
Okay.
I don't think most Bermudians know that that's called North Street. They just call it Parsons Road.
Sure. Okay.
Right? But going back to what you were saying about making sure that, what children have access and if they have food and if they have clothing, whatever. And I wanted to interject, as I think Bermuda knows, I'm also chairman of Teen Haven.
Yes.
And not too long ago, in which I wanted to piggyback on what you were saying, we actually rescued a family of 6 children, one mother, single parent, and there were 2 children sleeping in the bathtub.
Well,
Sleeping in the bathtub and then going to middle school the next morning. So how can
so
then
big children,
yeah.
Yeah.
two brothers,
Wow.
facing both separate directions, sleeping in a bathtub. There were children on the floor. Like, how can we expect these children to then go to school? Of course, they haven't had the nutrients and supplements that they need. They haven't had the academic support, the resources that they need. Cleaning off their shoes. They're not thinking about cleaning their shoes. They're thinking about, how can I survive today?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So everything that you were saying, I absolutely echo with. And this was December of last year. December 2024. This ain't 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This December 2024. Right, where we then had to take in a family and give them the support and resources. There were children sleeping in a bathtub. The teachers have no idea. Some of the teachers, what these children were going through, what they were doing, the trauma that they're facing and dealing with. And then, these are some of the children that end up making difficult choices because their reality is, I have to survive.
Okay.
Right, so I just wanted to share that
Sure,
when
sure.
you were talking about, you were making your introduction about that's the reality. Anyway, just to echo, Elmore and I worked diligently. We lobbied the government at that time in regards of grants and incentives. How can they have microloans? How can they get reduced payroll taxes? How can they get reduced interest rates at all of our local lending institutions? Right, and now that has even more, because when we first started, we didn't have BIU Credit Union. Now BIU Credit Union, offers these reduced interest rates, and loan guarantees. Before, when I first started at BDC, it was a 50% loan guarantee, meaning if you wanted a $20,000 loan, BDC would be the collateral for $10,000. Now it's 75%.
Okay.
Right, which is significant, but that's another conversation. But all of
Sure.
that to say, that's just a part of my life in Northeast
So
Hamilton.
this is Roxanne.
This is who I am.
Gotcha. No, understood.
Right?
'Cause that was the question.
This is Roxanne.
Gotcha.
And Elmore is right beside me.
And just one question. In terms of the Northeast Hamilton Business Association, right?
Yeah.
It was just you two, or more than you two that started?
We started it.
Okay,
Him
so-
and I started
So I
it.
wanted to make sure that I was not speaking incorrectly, because sometimes people upset.
If I may say,
So who are you, first of all?
well, look, I'm fresh.
I'm
That's
Fred.
it.
Remember, this is a 12-year-old person that doesn't know you.
12-year-old person?
So who are you?
That's
Okay.
asking about what's the blog.
Man, 12
What's the
years
blog?
old. No,
So-
it made me have to do that.
Right, the listening audience is broad.
Okay.
So-
12 years old.
Yeah.
My 12-year-old. It's interesting that you're watching, listening.
Yes. She listened with her
and
mother.
or watching.
With her mother, listening.
Streaming and so on and so forth. So respect to the parents of the 12-year-old.
Yes.
Because that is, the fact that they are all listening together, I would think, is pretty amazing. Elmore Warren, aka Fresh. I've been an entrepreneur for since 1987. Fresh Creations was born in 1987, and I've come through and I started that business right on King Street at my best friend's grandfather's watch store, which was called the Maury's watch store. He was a watchmaker and fixer. Mr. Moore, I think he was Ghanaian or something like that, or what was that other place called? Not Guyana. Anyway, so Fresh Creations was born there out of that relationship with the family that was my best friend, the Morris, and then I moved to the Union, the new Union, after we had burnt out Cosmopolitan Liquors, and I moved from there, and then I got into the television side of my degree. It was brass mass communications and film production, all that, and then but all of it was always connected to I've always employed somebody. I was a young 23-year-old employer, for the first time. That
Sorry.
was a journey.
You said 1987 you
Yeah,
started?
sure, 1987.
Okay,
I was
good, yep.
employing somebody
Got you.
at the age of 23, 24, 23. Actually, I was probably even younger because I had finished school at 19. I finished college, and and I worked at Engravers Limited first. When I first came back, I worked as a personal trainer before people even thought about personal training. I was a personal trainer in Dockyard in Somerset, Greg Mabry's gym. I was into bodybuilding and so forth, so that's how I got my health kick. I had been eating as a vegetarian since 1981. Learned it from some hippies in Greenfield, Massachusetts, stepping on tofu with the funky toes. And but these are things that crafted me. The Hebrew Israelites, my key family, one of my nurturing family. The Hebrew Israelites, all through veganism, vegetarianism. I met them, and then just, basically went through from there. My life in media has been, for community to be the best, right? One time I got asked this question, and this guy asked me the question, and he said, why did you get off the plane? And knowing how tough it is, sir, for most of us as melanin people, black people, Afro-Caribbean descent, he asked me that question. That's the first time somebody actually asked me the question. And he said, why did you get off the plane?
Why'd you come back?
Yeah, that's what he's, and he says, of all your, you're amazing and what you do, why?
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually like, dang, he asked me that question. And I said, I really felt that I would be able to contribute, and I wanted to make a contribution
Mm-hmm.
to my community, right, my village. And therein lies the dilemma, right? In that the two things, end up being a bane of existence, really, your work life and then doing community advocacy at the same time, while driving an economic machine to even do so. And just so happens, by the grace of God, I've been allowed to do that. And so anything that I've been involved in had community benefit. It made people happy. Mm-hmm. Alan Crifts was a turning part of my life, when I literally was going to go back to school and become a teacher. Yeah. And I was going to go back and, get my art degree. And I got accepted in Ruskin's University in Oxford in the UK. And but they said we only take 15 international students a year. Mm. So I had to wait a year. Okay. And in that time I said, I ain't waiting a year. And I said, if I start this TV show, or if I get into this TV thing, I could reach way more people, right?
Okay.
So instead of 25 in a class, I could reach 500 on TV.
But I mean, instead of being a teacher.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was the same mission.
Yes.
To basically re-educate, educate, right? Contribute at a high level of education. And so that's how basically my TV career was really born, and Alan Crift was born with Aaron Christopher,
his stuck with the Christopher family, right?
Family, right? It was he who inspired the motivation to actually get it moving after I had an attempt to do the world's first funniest home video show. And that was Bermuda's funniest home video show. Okay. Basically, the TV channel, the hierarchy bosses at ZBM basically were fighting over this show, and it got shelved because I refused to give up my rights for it.
Got it. And
so basically, Alan Crift came later in lieu of not being able to launch that show, and Aaron basically was just back from Full Sail, mm-hmm. and he was working at the station, and we got together, and then before you know that's how Alan Crift was born.
Okay. And so I was going to ask again in terms of, for the listening audience, right? Young and old, fresh TV, that came about in
1993, 2003, 2004.
2004, let's call it 2004. Yeah. And it's still going.
2003, it actually was playing music.
Okay.
2004, did a live launch.
Gotcha. And again, to the listening audience, thank you for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening. We're talking about the impact of violence in general on the businesses. And right now, not right now, but our guests are Miss Roxanne Christopher and Mr. Elmore Warren. And they've given an introduction about themselves as to who they are and how they tie into the community. Ms. Christopher gave an extensive commentary already. We'll go back to ask some of those questions. And now Elmore is doing the exact same thing. And then we're going to talk more directly about the real impact, or the more direct impact of the violence as it's having a reduction in the business opportunity for those that are in the coastal area, but mostly in the northeast Hamilton area, and then some more general comments. And so, Claire, talk to us now about your more direct involvement in the activism, and then we'll get you both to talk about the impact on businesses.
Well, the activism, this is where me and Roxanne are going to part a little bit.
And that's fine.
But I think, it's important to know that basically my wife and I are the ones who started the new movement that was taken from the North Hamilton Business Association. And
Explain
with
that. What do you mean? What
basically, the North Hamilton Business Association, right,
Yes.
was a group of the elder guard of Hamilton,
Yes.
of North Hamilton.
Uh-huh.
Harold Smith, Van Putten, Rosemary DeShields, people like that. Okay, they are the ones who actually were the vanguard of that. Like, they were the keepers at that time. When I moved to the street in 2000, yeah. Basically, I went and sat at the feet of those elders, and I asked them, what are they doing with the association? And they basically said, we're done. We're pretty much not doing nothing. They turned over this huge binder of the history of the North Hamilton Association.
So it starts before you. So you guys re-energized the place to
Before
start
me
with.
and Roxy got together.
Okay.
Because I had driven it with my resources, like I said, based on it being media and piggybacking. So, people like Yankee was already doing, they were already facilitating like a party after 24 for me.
Yes.
Right? So that was just the raw thing. And then I took it live. I took that element and sort of sterilized it a bit. And then I took it live to radio. And it first went on radio on Defiance.
Okay, just one quick second. So just for clarification, rather, the two of you would have, whatever word you use now, but let's say re-energized the North Hamilton Business Association when?
Like I said,
Just for a reference point.
yeah, the initial conversations that I had was in 2000.
Okay.
And that's with the North Hamilton people.
When did you join with Roxanne?
Roxanne wasn't joined till later.
2000.
I did in 2002, 2000.
Okay, cool. Just as a reference, let's go 2002.
2000.
Okay. All right, good.
Open Tips 99.
Yeah, but
Came down to the block.
yeah, but you what
Okay, that's
happened
cool.
was no. I think it's cool. But what happened was Bliss, I believe, right?
Bliss
You
didn't-
weren't. You had moved to Court. You were on Court
I was
Street,
I moved
but
down
you
the hill.
but you moved right. You moved down the hill.
Right.
So she was a part of sponsoring those first two events that we had.
Mm-hmm.
We had really nothing to do with government.
Right.
Because we had driven it all out of just local sponsorship and resources.
So what I was trying to clarify for
So-
myself and listening audience is that, so as you said about legacy, the association in its pure context happened some time ago. The two of you as the next generation, or as the younger lot, I want to say re-energized it
Yes,
in 2000 and let's say 2002 for reference.
right. 2001.
2001.
Uptown already had the brand,
Okay.
because that's why we had spoken to the elders.
Okay.
We had rebranded Uptown by the elders away from the North Hamilton Business Association. Okay,
So-
and that came at
Do
the
you want to
last.
give a little reference of how Uptown came into?
But what I want to do is I want to just make sure
Well,
I clarify
the-
for reference purposes, but then I want to come to the real conversation. Is
Well, yeah, I think the like I said, I mean, the I called a meeting once I had the blessing from the elders
yes.
for support for having this event, which will be the 24th of May event.
Okay.
Those two events are recorded. I got them on tape and they were on air.
okay.
So that first one, right? That's why we had sponsorship. So everything was funded from us.
yes.
Everything was funded internally, and and then all the design work, all that stuff was done through Fresh, right? Because I had the resources. I had a agency, creative company,
Right.
that sort of stuff, right? So once that blessing was given, the Uptown was rebranded. We called people together at Fresh and said, "Hey, this is the name." There was consensus that took place. They said, "Yes, we'll
For the
go ahead
Uptown
and do
market
that."
name.
For the Uptown name.
Okay.
Yeah, Uptown market name, right?
Okay.
And so then we were meeting. When we were first meeting, the founders of that movement basically are myself, Steve Simons, right? Is the main one.
Yes.
Even he was the early one, and then there was one or two others that were biased, but those were the main. Once it started to be organized, and we were meeting at the union.
Okay.
Then what happened was I had a business in South Africa, and I had to take a break to deal with that stuff in South Africa. I left Steve in charge. When I came back, we were meeting at Small Business Association on Church Street.
Okay. So I want to make sure
That's
that's
how small business got involved with Michelle Caldoon. She came to a meeting, and then next thing you know, the seat had moved.
Gotcha. Okay.
Had moved. That's how small business landed on top of us, basically.
Good. And it's I was not aware of this detail, to be honest, right? And it's interesting for me is to have almost like a whole conversation about how this thing took place, because it's important from a legacy point of view to understand that. So my comment in terms of starting the Northeast Hamilton Business Association is actually not correct, because it was started way back when, as opposed to being more energized, which is fine.
Way back
and to
then.
go back in the history, I think that's an important perspective, but not necessarily for today, focus-wise.
Yeah.
So let's now fast forward a bit in terms of recent violence, and it's not just recent. Obviously, it's been building up over a period of time, and I want you to give us a perspective on what you think should be the real focus now in terms of trying to address some of it, and more particularly, what is the impact? It's almost an obvious comment, but what is the impact of the businesses in the Northeast Hamilton area?
Let me start, because you started the first one, but let me start this one. And I want to say first and foremost,
also clarify what areas, because it's not
okay,
just Coast
I'm
Street.
gonna say the fact that, right, like, I think it's important, right, to give real context to this whole thing about violence and Bermuda and Court Street, right? Because what's the economic impact of Somerset? They had 2 people dead up in Somerset Village.
Yeah.
Right? Are we saying the same? Like, what's the impact up there?
Well, again,
Hang on.
there's asking
So,
questions.
I'm putting it out there rhetorically, but I'm saying it in a way, whereas a lot of this focus, right, has become, more Court Street centric, right, than truly an island centric situation.
Yes.
The same thing happened and Roxanne touched on it, right, about East and West and empowerments, right? When really the records would show we were talking about, really, it's not about a place as much as it is about the people that need empowerment. Like, we're a whole island of black people, Afro-Caribbeans, that needed empowerment. And the geographic location is where these epicenters would, was like the epicenter would be, like Roxanne said, is Court Street. But all the way over to Dock Hill, we're trying to get expanded into, as a part of empowerment. Because you're talking about really the geographical areas that were socially engineered, right, to hold us and keep us in a certain, status, right, and keep us in a certain place. So with that, context, right, then you're looking at how we managed in this area. And I'm saying we, because I was born, raised, and grew up just like Roxanne, but I'm born her in that space, and we all experienced a lot of the same things. I experienced the raw Jamaican coming early to Bermuda and being dumped in North Hamilton and Middletown and so on. So I experienced all that. And the street, right, and she hit on the history of the rebellion, of the rawness, right, that gave Bermuda its best benefits that we have for everybody. It gave us peace. It gave us all those things.
What do you mean?
Why I'm saying peace, meaning if it wasn't for the riots that took place the way they took place multiple times of people from this area, like that Pitt report and all those reports would have been written.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Right? Those things wouldn't have been brought to the forefront, right? Because it would have been still blase. When we think about the economic impact, right, I think that's the last piece that we need to be concerned about. Because through all that, once we got rid of all the other people, basically besides Goslins and one other, right? Like, basically, the street has survived, thrived, for what it's worth, right? It's there. Like, you're seeing people grow. You got restaurants that are growing. Jamaican Grill came to the street. Fish and Teens was born. You got a million beauty
Salon.
facilities, salons, and others, right? So it's really about the attitude, right, that we have, more than speaking about, the economics. It's really about what we've tried to do in the area, which is command the street. And we have done a poor job, right, getting support to take over the street. The businesses have been fine. It's the street that has had the real issue with the behavior, and not enough people from inside those businesses cared about what was happening in the street.
So
that's where we are today.
So you're separating the business out of the business that's on Court Street. My business is doing fine.
Sure.
But it's the street activity, the cultural, the social, the dysfunction that's having a negative impact. So
that's the piece.
So
he thinks a little differently.
Gotcha. That's excellent. Because if I go,
it's
that's
facts,
fine.
though.
But so if I go and walk down the streets in terms of the business community, that's the conversation I'm having. And I take your point, by the way. Let me clarify too. I take your point in terms of sometimes what happens is the same event can occur, i.e. St. George's, Court Street, and Somerset, and yet we focus in this instance on Court Street as opposed to Somerset or otherwise, when the exact same thing took place. But I will say that today the reason is because I had you two as my guests who are expert and relevant in this area. More so, that's why. And so it'll be interesting. Having said that, it'll be interesting though to have the same conversation with those from Somerset, the exact same conversation. But I do take your point for sure. But Ms. Christopher said you have a perspective on the business.
I understand.
And it's not so much about him versus you. It's more what your
not
perspective.
at all. I see things a little bit differently.
Sure.
So I think it's the business owners and the greater community of Bermuda that has a challenge with North Hamilton overall. So I'm going to go back to a bunch of the data, the research that I had put together, that I worked on for years to make a case to develop the economic empowerment zone, get that designation.
Okay.
One of the things was that a lot of a significant portion of Bermuda would use Court Street as a thoroughfare, as opposed to going from North Street, because call it Parsons Road, to Front Street or Church Street or Reed Street. They just drove through the area. They did not see us. They did not respect the businesses in the area. A lot of them, of course, we're a majority black island, right? A lot of them would tell their children and their aunts and their siblings, don't go to that store on Court Street, right? So a lot of the negative perceptions that Bermuda has cultivated for years about North Hamilton was created by us. That's my point.
Black Bermudians?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right?
So just to be clear,
I disagree with that.
That's fine. That's fine.
It can't possibly have been created by us.
Hold on. That's fine. Let her have a perspective though, in terms of, so just clarifying, you're saying that the black community themselves had a negative connotation for Court Street and said avoid it.
And correct.
Okay.
And so they would only drive through it.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Many of them would not stop to go to the retail stores and would not stop to go to the restaurants, would not stop to go to a lot of the other businesses because it was just a thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm saying this from actual data.
That's fine, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which supported why we needed this designation to support and empower the businesses within that particular area. So that's just
just one quick second.
Yeah.
Because I want to just one quick second. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Inside. What's your question or comment?
Mr. Richardson, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
I just want to concur with that young lady who spoke just now.
Ms. Christopher.
I am a senior citizen, right?
Yes.
And we were taught I didn't grow up anywhere near Hamilton. We grew in Hamilton Parish. We were down that way. But the people were told not to go on Court Street. She's right.
Okay.
Blacks were told, I was brought up in a very strict church, and we definitely were told not. I didn't know why, not to go around on Court Street.
Understood.
And then some months ago, since I was worshiping at St. Paul, they had these films that were shown, and it showed how it used to be with all these businesses on Court Street. That was something that I had never known, but it was very informative. So it means that things were good back in the day, I think.
Yes.
But I'm just saying it's true. We have done that because before all these daylight murders that happened, I have a seamstress restaurant on Court Street that I go to, and I've been going around there even to the restaurant.
Yes.
And she said, so I mean, I tell people to do that, but no, I don't know what's happening now that people are afraid for sure to go on there, and I'm sorry about that.
Let me address that.
Right?
Are you yourself afraid to come to Court Street now?
You mean, oh God, you mean because I've been out of the island as well.
Okay. Yes.
So you said you need to go around there now and see
Yes.
to that?
Yes.
I just am just upset for the businesses around
No,
there.
my question is that are you impacted by
No, I wouldn't say I'm afraid to go on Court Street because I'm going there all the time.
Okay, fine. Okay, no worries.
Since when I came back to the island, that I would go on there and I find that God is not Court Street's just as beautiful as any other place.
Yes.
Especially when they had the 24th of May, everything looked so pretty and the buildings painted. It looked really nice, right?
Okay, good. Okay,
So all I'm saying now, I concur with her.
understood. Okay,
Because the blacks, we do that.
thank you.
Let me address something.
Okay, one second. So thank you, Carla.
Okay.
So-
All right. Bye.
Thank you very much. And for the listening audience, again, I don't want you to just say go back and forth about all the comments, as opposed to it's a perspective, it's a perspective, it's a perspective.
No, it's not just perspectives.
No, but
you got facts, right? So here's the fact. The fact is that that street, way before that, right, was the bustling place for us, regardless. Like, to say it was our narrative, no, it wasn't. Bakaton's not our narrative.
But
Bakaton was an oligarchic narrative.
but let me question.
So no, we're going to look at where this negativity first starts.
But hey,
Negativity starts.
hold on a second. For the listening audience, right? The court accordion, her reality is she was told not to go to court, it was not safe. That's it.
No. She said she agreed, right, with us being responsible for the non-patronage, right, and the stigma of not going to Court Street.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that is not our origination.
Okay.
That we didn't generate that. That was generated out of the oligarchs. Because why? You had two economic pillars. One that was serving our community pre-segregation, right? One, right? Because remember, once you're able to go downtown, where else were people going?
That's okay. I got you.
So this is a perspective. This is a reality.
Okay.
So when we get to that point, right, of segregation, this is where the bourgeois, this is where the level of people who feel like, they were starting to walk across Court Street.
Yes.
This is what happened. My granny would be one of them. So if we look at the real stigma, right, it comes from that place where they wanted us, they implanted it, and we bought into it. One. The second piece of that, right, is that if you look up until the first real kinds of shootings, right, that took place, if you think about economics, how was spinning wheels able to survive? How were the new businesses that came and grew off of Parsons Road into the area, and so on and so forth? If economics and the street was so bad for us, because guess what? That's who was supporting us.
Okay.
So Gary wouldn't be growing because there's a whole bunch of Mzungus like coming over to Court Street. Swinging doors and spinning wheel, like all the shops that are there, Jamaican Grill, all of them.
Okay.
Right? So I'm just sharing that even Mr. Robinson, Earl Man Candy Store, it was there because he got Earl and thing, but he was there for eons. Mr. Birch, I mean, so it's preposterous to me.
Okay. Okay.
But we are the originators of that. But however, we got hoodwinked, right, into staying away from our best power. economic and social gathering, right, that we were able to do in the midst, right, of the revolutionary periods.
So to listening audience, I want to just but make this point, because this is important today, in that I always speak about the fact that groupthink is never good. We should not all think the same way. And what I don't want to do is give the impression that right now there's disagreement. There are different perspectives, but each of them are correct in their own context. And so I want, again, for me, for the discussion, and for those that are listening, especially going back now to the 12-year-old ladies, by the way, the 12-year-old, so that she understands, that she understands that this is how we have conversations. We have to have differences of opinion, we have to explore those differences of opinion, but we're not necessarily trying to change others to think the way they think. It is, I think X, and I can explain why I think X, and that's the beauty of conversation and not being groupthink.
I disagree.
That's fine.
I disagree that a 12-year-old, right, should be thinking, all right, about opinions.
Hold on. So I'm saying to the listening audience again, and obviously I know the person I'm talking to, I know the person's parent also, and they understand what I'm talking about. And so yes, it is important for them to hear difference of opinions and not necessarily think that it's an argument.
Okay, no, that was the piece.
Yes,
not necessarily think it's an argument.
Correct.
Right? In that, because what we've come to, and this is important, we've come to a place, right, where, you know, opinions, they say, are like anuses. Everybody could have one, but wait. But when we get down to the real facts, right, and we kind of tiptoe around, but if you want to challenge the facts of something, so when we're thinking about the grounding, right, of why Court Street is still existing today,
yes.
When we think about it. Like, how is Court Street still around today, and a person still opening up another restaurant?
Fine, but the listening audience, and I'll let Ms. Christopher come in now because I want to make sure she has her perspective, is this. It is a fact, right? If you go back into, say, 1970s up to maybe 1980, maybe 70s for sure, that everybody was told, blacks included, Court Street's dangerous, don't stop there. So they shop there without kissing me. They started, that's probably not correct, when they started, but it is true that that's what happened.
Well,
so that's why I'm not
against that.
Cool. So
I'm not against that statement. It was it was us who did that. That's where.
Okay.
That's
so
where.
So to the call we called earlier, we take your point when you were younger, as you said, your parents or otherwise told you that Court Street is dangerous, and that's part of the reason why you can come this way. We accept that. We're not trying to. We can never change anybody else's reality. And that's another thing we have to understand too. By the way, for a lot of us, I'll say this real quick. For a lot of us, right? No matter what we may learn, our experiences inform us. Sometimes, though, our experiences cause us not to understand the greater picture. And so, go to Ms. Christopher.
Let me say something.
I'll come to you in a minute.
I'm coming to you. So I'm a 70s baby, right?
Yes.
So, as I said,
I'm a 63. She's a 78.
As I said, I was sitting on my mother's steps on 53 Court Street when the riots took place. Right?
She was less than 10.
Oh, absolutely. I was a toddler. I was a little thing, but I remember eating my Narlators, watching all the marching. Right? So, anyway, my point is that my mother's business and other business, Miss Salters, who was selling like stationery store products back in the day when, we would go get our papers and our markers and whatever. So Miss Salters was there, the same location where Tough Shoes ended up being.
Yes.
Right? So, we had to create, we weren't invited to sit at the table. The business owners weren't invited to be members of the Chamber of Commerce. We had to create our own entities, our own institution. We had to create our own roundtable. And for me personally, that is a part of the layers of my personality, right? Which is developed, which is, I have to kick down the door in so many ways. Lots of times I'm not invited, right? So one of the things that I have been advocating for such a long time is public transportation. in Northeast Hamilton.
Okay.
You know, so public transportation only goes from the peripheral of the area. They go on Cedar Avenue. They go around North Hamilton. But, you know, statistically, the data is any place in the world where there is no access to public transportation is an economically depressed area. Any place around the world. So from the bus being pushed down Teal's Hill in the 70s, there became this perception that public buses can't go down the hill or up the hill. And that's false, because there are other parts of the island.
Clearly.
There are other parts of the island where the grade is much steeper, and technology has changed so much since then that buses can navigate that area. So before I left BEDC, which is probably about 6-7 years now, before I left BEDC, we did trial runs. You know, we did an entire case study of public transportation, one being a 10C and the 8C being 8 Cedar Hill, 8 Court Street, that could penetrate the area to bring people to North Hamilton so that they can benefit and see the jewels of what the area has to have. The lady spoke about her seamstress. My mother was a seamstress and then went into retail and all of that other stuff. I was in the beauty. I'm going to be stuck in the beauty industry forever. That's a part of my legacy. It's a part of who I am.
Sure.
But, you know, to be able to come to Fresh TV, I mean, I remember years ago, Elmo and I spoke about having like a Real Housewives of Bermuda show, right?
Please,
But it was many moons ago. But just, I mean, my point is, you know, all of the restaurants and businesses and the clothing, we used to have fashion shows. When I was at BDC, I had a red carpet black tie event on the block on Court Street. Right, Amir was the designer. We had waiters, we had white glove service, we had a red carpet on the block, right, where we recognized long-standing business owners and residents of the area. It was a celebration by us, for us, because we knew, once again, we had to create our own seat at the table.
Yes.
Right, so there were lots of I remember a time, Elmo should remember, that the Chamber of Commerce at one point came to us at Spinning Wheel. There was this meeting at Spinning Wheel. And I have to say the ED at the time of Chamber was Diane Gordon, right? Trying to get membership and get a division of Northeast Hamilton. Northeast Hamilton practically chased them out of the area. Right, because if you all these, if all these years you were invested in our success, why should we now join Chamber of Commerce? Chamber of Commerce had never invested in Northeast Hamilton. Never thought markets. I have to give kudos to Faria, you know, and for Gary and for all of the people that have now bringing these markets back to life and showing. And they had a fashion show with the red carpet, which I gave Faria the idea because we had done it before.
Yes.
And these markets are getting thousands of people to see. I have to say it's a jewel because there's no place in the island that can replicate the energy, the vibrancy, the institutions. I'm a product of one of those children that were educated from a cash box.
Okay.
It wasn't these bank accounts and these loans and the yada yada yada. I mean, my mama had a cash box, and that's how me and my brother's tuition were paid for.
Gotcha.
Right, so there were a lot of people that were educated throughout Bermuda from the mom and pop stores in the area on the block.
Okay. So I'm going to take this caller and I'm going to come back because now we're in the middle of it. Good evening, caller. Thank you so much for your patience. We do apologize. What's your question or comment? Caller?
They hung
Tell me what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to call back. Good evening, caller. What's your question or comment?
Good evening, Father.
Tell me what you're doing first and then go for it.
Sorry?
Okay, go ahead.
Starting off?
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, certainly appreciate it because I'm quite interested in that. And so, however, what I'm going to bring up
Actually, can you go phone first? You're breaking up a bit.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yeah, much better.
Good, great. So I'm going to come from a whole different angle. I'm going to warn you all now. So in with regards to the impact of these latest heinous crimes committed on Court Street. And so what I'm going to say to them is just, and basically it's for, what I'm going to say is basically for thinking purpose, for persons to actually think on.
Okay, just give me a comment, Graham.
My comment is this, and so it is that I am suspecting, supposing that there are forces outside of Court Street that recognize that area is beginning to thrive, right? And a lot of increased traffic and so forth to that area, and so these crimes were committed with the intent of shutting that down. Yep, of shutting it down. When you get increased traffic to that area, I'm surmising that outside was the city competition, and so see how the competition is being drained from their areas, and now they want to attack that area and have to shut that increased traffic.
Okay, that's an opinion for sure. What is the basis of that thought?
Well, it basically it's because how these acts are committed right on Court Street.
Okay.
Broad daylight, which is acts of terror.
Okay.
You see, you're doing these acts at a time of course, tight business operation, right?
Okay.
And so it is intentional.
Okay.
That because it's right on because it's broad daylight at a time that people are actually worrying about patronizing and these sorts of things. That's when you commit this crime. So I'm going to say intentional intent for basically decrease that traffic.
Okay. Thank you, Corey.
All the areas see that very reason are hurting. They see how that this is impacting their cash flow and so forth.
Okay, we got you. Thank you, Corey. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
No,
Okay, bye.
if I'm hearing
So,
you right,
just to clarify to the listening audience, I was picking up a bit. His comment is that the increased violence is intentional and based upon the fact that persons would see that Court Street is becoming more and more successful, and so outside powers would want to counteract that by causing this violence and cause a decrease. That's his summary comment, I would imagine.
well, he talked about traffic, right? And Roxanne talked about traffic, right? And the thoroughfare, right? Which
Yeah, that's his comment?
Which I'm addressing this whole traffic piece because
Okay.
he talked about that, and Roxanne spoke about it, right? And knowing full well that these things, right? The fact that we haven't addressed the real traffic part of Court Street in all shapes and forms is a part of this, right? Because the area has survived more so, right, on stop and go and pedestrian. Okay, now the pedestrianized piece, right, is the piece that everybody, no, not everybody, but many people have glazed over, and we haven't gotten a lot of support for. But it has long been, right, that the area needs to have a huge segment of times pedestrianized, because it would be a way of bringing more activity to the street. See, over the past 20 years, right, what people haven't realized is Court Street had already begun to evolve, right, with the shootings that were taking place at that time. It had already begun to evolve. In fact, it started to evolve after 1977. It's been ever evolving. However, the powers that he may or may not be talking about, but the powers that be are the organizations that actually came in to believe that they can actually do something better than the people who are there.
Okay, let me clarify, because I'm getting a little bit to clarify.
Okay.
So, in terms of transportation, right?
Right.
Are you saying that Court Street should be pedestrianized, or
That's true.
that?
Yes.
So right now it's foot traffic. Are you supporting either there should be buses going through or not?
I believe, but you only got a certain amount of where the bus can go.
Okay, are you supporting fundamentally the buses should travel to Court Street?
For instance, let me listen. Court Street starts at the beginning of front.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get that correct.
Well, Court Street
So-
between Victoria and North Street.
No problem. It should be on a route like that.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Okay, fine, okay.
Right? Because one, Roxanne knows I was the chairman of the Uptown March Association.
Mm-hmm.
All these things were all at the table right, about transportation, how we could actually start traversing the zone, right,
gotcha.
from the outside to the inside
Yeah.
cavities, right? So no disagreements there.
Fine.
The big piece is that we always, and the organizations and people always did things that hid away the activity. So it was more important to do it in places parking lot and have a market. No, it didn't work there. It can't work there. It's more important to hold the something done in a park that's 10 feet below the street. No, it can't work. What we have to do is do the markets which we were doing, but we needed day markets and not night markets.
Okay. So
And the
let me
day
clarify.
markets
So this
would
is-
bring the pedestrian traffic
Okay, let me
that
clarify
would be
something.
needed to increase, right, the business activity.
I normally don't do this, but for tonight I'm trying to make sure I'm clear myself, and hopefully if I'm clear, the listening audience is clearer. So I hear saying, for example, that the Court Street area successfully did certain things, and then when the institutions came in, for example, the Corporation of Hamilton, they did stuff to try to enhance it, but in fact the wrong thing, so that they tried to enhance, let's say, the market, and said put on the Don in the park right there, which was a mistake. It should be something enhanced.
I see it a little bit different. I have a different experience.
But was that the point you're making?
Yes, but I let her talk.
If I knew, what's that the point you're making?
Yes,
Okay.
the point I'm making is that the organizations that came in,
Yes, which be government and
actually-
a corporation, for example.
they did things, right, that really were not beneficial.
Okay,
that's
okay, fine.
that's why they're not existing today.
Okay, I got you.
And right, and the piece that there's only 20 parking bays, right? There's only 20 parking bays between Victoria
And North
and
Street.
Flippinwell, down by Spinning Wheel,
Okay, got you.
right? 20. Hang on, by the time that area right there, 20. Okay. Now think about it, right? Who survives off of parking bays being filled most of the day by the same car?
Okay.
Okay,
So what is
by
your
the same
suggestion
car.
though? That the
I'm showing the facts here. The fact is that the area has done more with stop and go traffic, right? With somebody hops out of their car, right? Drives in, gets it, right? And if they could have got the nails done the way, they would have done it, right? And the foot traffic, which had always been moving through the area, because most of us didn't. And the feeders, hang on, and the feeder community that made Court Street successful came from the north, east, west kind of thing. Not even Spanish Point.
Give me some reference points.
For instance, okay,
Point?
St. John's Road, Monte Hill, Government Gate, Prawn Hill, all the way over to Rock Hill.
Okay.
This was the theater place for North Hamilton, Court Street area as a bustling place for black
And
commerce.
what stopped it?
Segregation.
Okay, I got you. Okay, fine.
Segregation changed it because the water became better to get it from the front street. I.e., mom and pop shops start taking a licking, right? You had Buster Tuckers as a outpost, right? These things all started to get, Mr. Robinson's candy store. Everybody started going to the annex. Everybody started. All these things
Gotcha.
start happening.
I'm gonna bring in Ms. Christopher because I know, but I want to keep a balance. But what I want to just emphasize is make sure I clarify is that. So your perspective has been that prior to segregation, the area, let's say as wide as Spanish Point to Dock Hill, would have gone to Court Street to do all their commerce.
Facts.
Once the segregation stopped or was loosened a bit, that broader area stopped going to Court Street and instead went to Front Street.
Facts.
Okay, cool. Not cool, but I understand your point. I was trying to make sure that we are
facts.
concise for this audience now. Ms. Christopher, good.
Okay,
But still, by the way, we haven't, I know this audience for not being fit tonight, but it is what it is. We haven't still addressed this point there that maybe it's incorrect. The hypothesis in terms of this, the increased violence, recent increased violence has not had an impact on businesses.
And my point is getting to that.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Yeah, sorry.
there is perception, as the caller said, the first caller said,
Yes.
that when she was younger, she was told never to come to the Court Street area. And that has been countless households for many years. Now, agree or disagree, that's just a reality of lots of conversations that families have had, and it has gone down generations from grandmother to parent to child to possibly even the young adult
Taxi
that's
drivers.
Yes.
that's another conversation, 2025. Now, there has a perception, a negative perception, that there has always been more crime in North Hamilton, and that's not the facts. The facts is year in and year out, there is more crime in Greater Hamilton than North Hamilton. Now, you may have more shootings on Court Street, but in reference to the hardcore data of more crime every year, you're going to have Greater Hamilton, you're going to have Pitts Bay Road, that's always significantly higher than Northeast Hamilton. One, it's a family environment. These are business owners and residential owners that is an extended family of each other, where there's a protect the village, a protect the nest. And, this spate of violence, and I'm going to say this spate of violence, it is being initiated from individuals outside of our community who come into Northeast Hamilton, do whatever they're doing, and then go back home. But the village of our community does not breed that, right? So that data of crime, where you have intoxicated people fighting, falling down, people losing their life because they hit the head, but you have so much other crimes take place in Greater Hamilton, not on the block. Right? So that is every year when you see the quarterly data that comes up from Bermuda Police Service, that is a number that never changes. But wonder why it never changes, right? Because the reality is our community does not breed crimes like that. That's a negative perception that has been perpetuated for generations. I don't understand why. To me, it's a part of pride as well. Why you won't take pride in your own? Why you won't take pride in your own? That's an issue for me. But to go back to the businesses that are having challenges.
Okay.
There are a lot of businesses in Northeast Hamilton that are having challenges. There are some businesses that have not reopened since the last murder that we had on the block. There are businesses now where you have clients saying, when I come in the store, I need you to lock your door. Whereas people would come in and out of businesses or whatever. Some people want to say, I'm not going to come in. If I want my shirt, can you bring it outside to me? I'm not going to park and come in. I'm going to double park for 2 seconds. Right, but that's an issue in itself, because riding bikes. Listen,
Stop and go.
There's, I guess so. Stop and go.
That's the
right?
stop and go. It's always been a part of.
But then also we have a habit. Even I'm going to say this, of bikes riding on the sidewalk. There's a level of behaviors that is tolerated and acceptable, but you're not doing that on Front Street and Reed Street and Church Street. You're not riding up on the sidewalk outside a marketplace on Church Street. You're not riding your bike up on the sidewalk. Okay. Right, but you'll do it on Court Street all the time. You'll feel that I need to walk out the way to let you climb your bike.
Yes.
You're 125, walk back on the sidewalk. I'm not getting out the way, right? But that's just a level of behavior that's accepted, because we want to pick and choose when we're less than and we're greater than. We can't have the best of both worlds. If we're going to be greater than, we have to be greater than all around. We can't pick, in my opinion.
Sure.
My opinion. So we have businesses that are facing significant challenges. I still, get my hair and my nails and my seamstress, my people, it hurts my heart to have to go to somebody else since my mom passed away. But, I still have a significant factor of my life in North Hamilton. I'm still supporting business owners that need help. Roxanne, I need to apply for this business loan. I'm not sure how to make a strong application. I need support from BEDC. I need to find out how can I market, because I'm having a difficult time marketing my business. So I'm still every day involved in Northeast Hamilton, every day in some capacity.
But Roxy,
hold on a second.
But no, I want Roxy. When you think about the evolution, right, of the impact, I'm not going to sit here and say, in the short term it doesn't have impact. A lot of things do, and then they return. But when you look at the evolving dual of business, right, and how the street has moved, it still has it. Some right now you have businesses that are successful. Is the traffic down? Is the traffic down a bit right now? Yes, it has been, right? Is it slowly returning back for some people? For some people, based on choices, right? Based on what they want. For instance, food is not, suffering as much on one side of the street, right? Let's just say, right? But then on the other side of the street, where most of the activity would basically take place, it always has had this challenge, but it's also
But let's be more clear.
survived.
One side, other side. So
Okay,
I wasn't finished.
North,
Okay,
north,
sorry.
north,
Okay.
north, and south, right? North and south, the
East and west.
intersection. Sorry,
East and west.
no, north and south.
Of the intersection.
North
yeah.
and south of the
Yeah.
intersection.
Before
right?
Dundonald and after Dundonald.
Right, before
right?
Dundonald.
It's kind of
after
two different
Dundonald.
worlds for some people.
It changes.
So,
It
let's stop-
changes
okay, let's
into
stop.
two
No,
different worlds.
stop that. So go ahead, because we're making some important points, by the way. And one of which I want you to talk about is the fact, I guess, that the crime is not as much as we think it is. But that's never, until you said that tonight,
It's a fact.
I've never heard anyone delineate that. Right? So
20%. And just
No,
and
about-
before you
I'm
say
talking about the crime and
20%,
stuff.
Yes.
20% of
So-
all those
So-
murders only
not-
happened over there.
no, not the amount I'm talking about,
Even-
just
just
general
just the
crime.
general crime.
Yeah.
Right. This is probably before I was born.
But has
right?
anybody ever said this publicly?
Well, I always
Yeah.
say it, and it's always publicly done
Yeah.
by BPS,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So it's accessible data, and
Yeah,
there could
no
be
secret.
numbers that you don't pay attention to because it's not your reality, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm vested in the area, it's very important for me to be able to tell our story.
And so I
Right.
guess my question to you, and I don't mean to interrupt you, is
Okay.
take that and share that, because again, for me, it's like wow,
Absolutely.
and I'm sure to the rest, not the rest, but
Absolutely.
others be sending, because if it can be shown
But if you
that the
think
crime
about
is
it,
less in Court Street, that's a huge
If you think
thing.
about it, if you're thinking about how often you read the Daily
I
and
do.
you're hearing, okay, those who do,
Yes.
and you hear about crime that goes on in Hamilton, right? On a day-to-day basis, you're going to see more that's not included in Court Street,
Yes. Okay.
right? So what you may pay attention to sometimes is the crime that you hear about in Court Street. But that's not the reality. That's not the facts of the numbers. So year in and year out, even with this recent spate of violence that we have in North Hamilton, overall, there is more crime in Greater Hamilton than it is in North Hamilton. And that's year in and year out, and those numbers do not change. That's facts.
And that, I think I would suggest to you that comment would be helpful to the area if it's announced or focused on even more than it has been.
No, that's not true. It has
No.
been.
No.
The whole
Well, so
thing
you gotta do
is,
it because-
it goes back to the
But
stigma.
hold on. Let's keep on going.
Well,
Okay.
hang on. I think if we would have a conversation, we could have a
Well,
conversation.
we've had a lot of about.
But
having
the conversation, right, of what you're saying is that if we expose that, right, that's been exposed. That's not it, is what I'm saying. Now I'm just addressing that because you say, well, let's expose this more. No, that's really not it. We're really talking because
Perception
violence
versus
as a whole across the whole island is happening more in other places than it is in North Hamilton.
like you said, perception is
Right.
reality.
So the
right?
perception of it is
But I'm sorry,
not
no.
being able to.
But that point in and of itself makes the difference.
That point only makes a difference for, like it hasn't made a difference, right, in how you're getting more people to use the area.
Okay.
That's that. What
Can
has
I
made the
interject?
difference?
Just like
Yeah,
interject on that
yeah,
particular
yeah,
comment,
sure,
right?
sure,
sure. But finish
So
your comment.
your comment about perception is reality. You know, that perception has become reality for generations. Right? Because like the caller said, they have this at their Sunday dinner table. They talk about it on Christmas Day. They talk about it at their family gatherings. These perceptions go on, not the facts.
Yes.
Right? And so it's much easier to present the perception as opposed to discussing the reality. Right? And so that is an issue. And so it's very important for me as someone that has used data to support the policies and the incentives in order to justify and make these policies and incentives happen, I have to have data and facts.
Okay. Okay.
Right? So the data and facts is important to me. It's important to be able to share that with Bermuda because I'm vested in the success of the area. Now, the spate of, so right now I feel that there are concerns about having 20, 30, 40-year legacy of businesses, right? That's a fact that we have right now. I have businesses right now that are 2-3 years old that have not reopened and are afraid to reopen.
On Court Street?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Keep going.
That have not reopened, or like I said, when they have patrons come in their door, they have to lock the door. They're asked,
Yes,
right,
yes.
by the patron to lock the door. It's very different if I want to run inside Soul Food Grill or Jamaican Grill for 5-7 minutes, get my food and hop back in my car or bike, as opposed to spend a half an hour trying on clothes.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
As opposed to spending, I'm a girly girl, spending 4 or 5 hours in the salon, depending on what style or weave or whatever I'm getting.
Yes.
Right? It's a different experience for the businesses that can run in and get my nachos, right? Or get my jerk chicken. It's different. I can hop in and out, but that's not the only businesses in the area.
Okay.
Right? So the other businesses that require more time to use that establishment are having challenges.
And again, I would say that it's interesting to hear that for sure, because even for my show, right, it's about going beyond the headlines and the sound bites, as you're talking about. So for example, we hear just the media that's saying, okay, it's been acts happening. We need to understand better what the data is behind that.
Absolutely.
And that's how you start to move the perception. And so my question to you is this: in terms of, as you say, you're more vested in the area than many, if not most, right? It's what is the avenue by which you're able to address the perception versus reality?
The perception, we're still fighting against it.
Yes, but how is it being fought against?
So, one, we're trying to create more events. We're trying to create events that attract the entire island.
Okay.
Right? To support, to see what the businesses have to offer. You're going to see businesses that don't offer the same things as in Reed Street and Front Street and Church Street. You're going to see businesses that have more crafts. You're going to see businesses that have more homemade items. We're attracting business owners and entrepreneurs from around the entire island to the area.
Okay.
These markets have thrived. And go back to maybe a comment 15, 20 minutes ago that Elmore said, that Elmore was alluding to. When we first started to have these markets, I want to say 2005 to 2010. I'm using my tenure.
Yes.
We started trying to have these markets on. Everything was an evolution.
Yes.
Right? And people have to become more comfortable with the idea, because when we first started having these markets closed in the block to have these markets, business owners were upset.
Yes.
They said, I don't want no one selling jewelry outside of my clothing store, but I'm got accessories inside there. No. Today, they welcome it because there are thousands or more people coming to the area,
Okay.
buying from the vendor on the market and going inside their retail store. So the traffic that they typically would not have on a Sunday is being tenfold over.
Okay.
Right? But just being open to the activity that a market does, now it's becoming vibrant, successful, and a staple, which I hope and pray doesn't change. I look forward to the first market that will take place after this spate of violence. So we went from having markets on the block to trying, because the business owners were complaining and they were like physically going and moving the barriers from Corporation Hamilton themselves, we then went to like Place parking lot. Okay, now if we have to market off the street where there's a parking lot, not impacting your stop and go traffic, will you be more supportive then? That still didn't work. It took years, right, for people, just how Bermuda has to come along with us, the business owners had to come along with us as well, because the markets were new. The markets wasn't something historically that Court Street always had and were vested. That may happen the 24th of May events.
Yes.
Right? But
yeah.
in reference to a monthly market or whatever, that's not something the area was used to as a new revenue stream. Right?
Understood.
So everyone
Okay.
had to embrace these new revenue streams. And let me see, because Sundays is typically a softer day.
Yeah.
A lot of business will close. I'm going to be open. I may be able to pay my rent for the month from this one day of business economic activity. So yes, I'm going to be open to make sure that these thousands of people, black, white, everyone in between, has come to Court Street. They've heard about it. They've even heard Nick. I want to see it for myself, and have had a fabulous time, a fabulous experience.
Okay. So question, let me take this call and come back to you. My question is going to be, when is the next market?
That I don't know. I can say that right now.
Caller, thank you so much for your patience again. Are you still there? If you are, what's your question or comment? Okay, then please call back. And this time, if you call back, I'll take the calls right away, because they have been waiting for quite a while.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's my thing. Here we come right back. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
Yes, good evening to you and your panel. How you doing?
Good.
Hi.
Just pause one quick second, though. To the listening audience, thank you for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening on this edition of Insight. For those that have joined us, I guess, more recently, the guests this evening are Miss Roxanne Christopher and Mr. Elmore Warren, speaking about the Northeast Hamilton business area, whereby Court Street is the epicenter. And we had lots of good conversation. And so, caller, go ahead.
Okay, good evening again.
Yes, sir.
I'm definitely in agreement with Roxanne, right? Because business has depleted on Court Street since all this violence and stuff that's going on. And you do have people that are nervous
Yes.
to go to work, right? Court Street, to me, should be one of the safest streets in Bermuda because of the police station right there, if the cameras, right? But if you ask me, they should have brought the police station down further and put it right across from Spinningville in that parking lot right there. That's where it should have been, right? But we haven't heard. What I would like to hear from you guys are some solutions.
Okay.
We haven't heard any type of solutions from you. If you have any solutions, can you please let us know?
Okay. Thank you, caller. That's it.
Thank you. All right.
I like that.
Yeah.
So let me say this. The solutions just aren't going to be Elmore and Roxanne, right? It's not. It takes an island-wide effort to change. The town hall meeting that they had this past Monday, I don't think any realistic solutions came out of that whatsoever. My thing is each one teach one. It takes a village. We all have a role to play. I don't believe in just standing by and just sitting and complaining and moaning. What can I personally do to make a difference? What business can I own? Me as a Bermudian, if I don't normally shop on Court Street, let me go and get some Christmas presents. Let me go and get a birthday present. Let me go to the barbershop. Let me go meet these fabulous men at Universal Barbershop. Let me go, meet some of the Dominicans on the block. And Court Street has always been the epicenter of immigration in Bermuda, right?
Oh.
It's always been the epicenter. You've always had immigrants from various communities that have found North Hamilton as their home. That hasn't changed. Okay. It's just evolved. It was the place that was very affordable, even for residences. It was the place that was more affordable for businesses. So I encourage Bermuda in reference of changing it to support it economically. That's how it will change. That's how the business owners will feel pride and feel appreciated. So, right now it's hurting my heart because I know of 2 businesses today that are leaving the end of October to go to Washington Mall.
Oh.
Right? I know 2 businesses today that are on their way out of North Hamilton.
And what's the reason? Do you know? Is it particularly the same idea of customers being afraid?
Yeah.
Can I speak?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just,
speak?
okay, yes, you can. I'm just telling you
just
facts.
wondering, can I speak?
No.
Okay, go
fine.
ahead, Elmore.
Are you
finished.
finished your point?
I'm just wondering. I mean, like,
I'm finished.
No, you have your laptop up.
no, I mean, like, look, I ain't left the street. I've been there since 2000.
Yeah.
While others are going on. Okay. And one
Everyone's
thing,
not you,
and one
though.
thing,
Then
and
okay,
one.
yeah.
Hang on. The point is,
Don't
right,
call her.
I've studied.
Oh, man.
I've seen the facts, right, of people coming and going. One of the huge problems that we're having on Court Street is the lack of diversity of business.
Okay.
There is a limited area, okay? If you go from Sung Sing from Victoria Street, okay, to Dundonald on the left side, right? You have
East or west?
it going north, right? From Victoria.
On the western
okay?
side, keep going.
Every spot is occupied. Every spot is occupied, okay? And that has been for the longest while. The only spot that has been having issues was the Zacchaeus, okay, when he closed up. Outside of that, occupied. Then you go on to the right-hand side, going down north,
Eastern
okay?
side, yes.
Every business been occupied. Transformative, right? Whatever, right? Now, when you think about what has happened and shifted, for instance, corporate Bermuda, let's say one of those mobile companies came and then they moved out, okay? But then a bike group took it over. We had one of the a guy open up a mobile repair shop there. Did absolutely well. Just like historically happened back in the day, right? When businesses got to a certain level, they moved. Okay, so he moved downtown. Okay, one of the mobile company,
Yes.
right, owned by a Caucasian. Okay, initially owned by our brother. Okay, who sold out to a Caucasian. Now, when I'm saying this, then go down again. Go down.
Okay, let me ask you a question then. So your comment is that there isn't diversity of businesses in the area.
No.
How do we encourage diversity?
So hold on.
Because time is going to be a challenge today. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
hold on.
Okay.
You gotta let me unpack this. So then you look at the lack of spots available, right? And the size and scope to actually do major
Okay.
business products. It's a challenge
I'm saying,
because there's no new development.
How do you propose to fix that?
Then, right, you need to one develop. Okay, you have to develop at some level because
talking about build
it's not-
physical structure.
You need access to more real estate on
Okay.
your main drag.
Okay, so where
Right?
can you do that?
Sorry,
Where can you do that?
you could do it in the masjid lot, which is sitting there, but there's no development there. Some things are going to probably have to be knocked
Everyone
down.
does know the martial lot, so break
Oh,
that
sorry.
down.
Across from Spinning Wheel,
Yes.
next to Jamaican Grill,
Yes.
right? That's an open lot, right? Roxanne would know. We had made a proposal to actually take the park that was there, that would have been built up, right? Into a different space on the Dundonald Court, right? Then you had an avenue that would have been built up down on Angle and Court, right? With Candy Smith and Carla Phillips at one point for a big residential unit. So then, right, you have legacy. Then you have legacy people, right?
So your comment, I'm guessing, I'm trying to be concise, I guess, is that there needs to be, is it incentive to build buildings there? Or what's the,
Well, there are. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's not just it's about legacy. See, you got these dimensions, right? You got legacy takeovers, right, of legacy properties, okay?
Yeah.
That one they're now changing hands. For instance, Spinning Wheel just changed hands, right? The Smith family, changing hands, right? And then you got the Robertsons, changing hands. You got
is it intergenerational change or just a complete new person?
No, generational.
So from grandparent to
Grandparent,
grandchild.
father to child, right? So it's very difficult, right, to then look at what the you have to equate. Look at that at the same time. Look at gentrification, because these are not just any properties. These are legacy properties that have been in and were built up specifically to be like, hey, make sure they don't get it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a challenge. And so when new businesses are coming, for instance, we got over. I think it's over like. From what I remember, I can't remember the numbers.
North Hamilton is a 30 square block radius. There's 30 blocks.
But the high number of businesses are over there that are keep coming in are beauty, nail,
Okay.
her,
So
right?
So
Nail her.
So the reality, not the reality.
Barber.
So your comment is that at this point in time, there is a lack of diversity, and that the majority that are there are beauty orientated. Hair,
Yes.
nails, and bob.
And the
yes?
people who are successful, right? Food.
So what is the solution?
Food. Hang on. Food. Right. Yes. Food.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Is a huge piece of the draw. Now, the day after these shootings, whatever which way it goes,
Yeah.
there's a group of people that still come to the street,
Yes.
and you know who they are?
so
People who don't look like me and you. They walk that street with impunity. They like nothing ever happened. They're there on that street, passing through, using it. It doesn't matter.
So the shootings have no impact on
Does not-
foot traffic.
The shootings had no impact on a group of people. I said.
Okay,
I
fine.
said the group of people. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to tell you. It
Okay.
hits into this piece. Now these are just facts.
No,
right?
fine. I'm not- I'm
So
just trying to be clear.
if there's a group of people that are not being impacted by this type of violence in the country,
Oh, period. Okay.
okay, so they are the ones who are going to also, right, be the extra force, right? That means people from outside, right, coming in. Because before, when the first drop off happened for North Hamilton, it happened with the first shootings and the warfare between neighborhoods.
Okay. So let's
The
be
park sites-
let's be blunt.
The
So-
park sites
hold on,
and,
let's be
and,
blunt.
and
Let's be blunt.
government gate
Okay.
shut off the first load of commerce.
Blunt. So your comment is that black people are being impacted, so white people keep on using Court Street, no big deal because
They're using
that's
Court
fine. Okay, cool.
So one thing I want to say, and we're educating our island and our listening audience.
Yes.
Right. So one of my biggest things we're talking about change is beautification. Right, beautification of the area, and one thing that's important to me is community art. So
Yeah.
I don't know if Bermuda knows the football murals on the side of Jamaican Grill. That's all Roxanne. That's all me. It was my idea. It was my brainchild to celebrate our local football heroes. I contracted Manuel Palacio. I reached out to the Thomas family to see if they would allow us to paint on the Jamaican Grill building.
Yeah.
The Thomas family and my family very close. Miss Thomas said, absolutely, Roxanne, do whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Right? So we're going back to Teal's Hill.
Yes.
Right? Teal's Hill has these very ugly, stoic hill, the walls that's going up. At one point, we, when Delwood was, I want to say it could have been spring break, we had Manuel Palacio and a bunch of volunteers paint a bunch of plywood, right, that we had put on the sides of Teal's Hill to make it more attractive,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
If you, I don't know if you
Yes.
recall that,
Yes.
right? So that was something that I did during my tenure at BEDC. And then the mural, right? No one, and the difference is I wasn't coming behind anyone to follow in the footsteps, right? I was just thinking of what can I do, one, to attract more foot traffic. We're talking about diversity of businesses. How can we create new experiences? I am so thankful. Like, we love my cousin Ed Christopher, the Hamilton Town Crier, that brings tourists through North Hamilton all the time.
Yes.
5 days a week, all the time. That hasn't stopped, mind you, since the violence. Ed is still bringing the tourists throughout the area. But I agree with Elmore in diversifying the offerings of the area. And community art is something else that we can introduce people to. We can show people of Northeast Hamilton. Now, it's like I said, the first community art really was the football heroes that I put on Jamaican Grill.
Sure.
Right? And then it was Teal's Hill. But mind you, if it's not maintained, it starts to fall off. I have to thank the Corporation of Hamilton, because now they're putting like these statements on the front of Fort Hamilton walkway, like right across from Bermuda Motors, that make
Right.
people stop and think. I know we have a caller,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to.
Okay,
to-
two
to
things.
say
One is there's an overseas caller trying to come through, but there's a local one that's been waiting. I'll take the local one,
sorry.
and then once that's done, overseas person, please call back.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got a privilege for being local.
Good evening, caller. Welcome to Inside. What's your question or comment? Okay. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Inside. What's your question or comment?
Good day, Mr. Richardson. Good day to Ms. Kristen and Elmo Warren.
Hi.
You know what? I enjoy listening to these guys, and the Hamilton has been getting whatever financial help from the government. What is the government planning on doing to enhance that area even greater than the Band-Aid approach that they put on? Now, let me preface this. They've been in power for 27 years, right? Minus one term. David Burt and his being the finance minister before and now has spent more time running after the white community and advancing them in the economic pie than he worries about his own or even lets the ministers under him see to us in North Hamilton. And you all could spend $14 million going after you at Brown and still counting, but you can't invest in the youth of your country. And you can't invest, because see, the mindset here is really, we all have the mindset of what Court Treaty is. And this is the imaginary mindset because we've been bewitched. And we don't want to pour back into our own on the level that we need to, but it's going to take economic pie. It's going to take money. And when you enhance North Hamilton to the state that it should be like Front Street, then we're going somewhere. Until that, we're just talking a whole pile of bull crap. So, Richardson, I hope you can talk to the finance minister, because we drop it at his lap instead of running around the world, worrying about all these white boys around here, but you don't really worry about us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Only thing I can say is I'm not the government, right?
But fine, but I think the answer, the majority answer to what it's saying is that it's about BDC. The government is doing the majority of the assistance, I would suggest, to assist Northeast Hamilton is through BDC, giving them a lot more capacity for loans, for investments, setting up the EEZ. And I know government has also changed the law in terms of there is now more, the laws in terms of building residential for sure in the area are much more broad. And so, obviously the person has a political bent.
There's planning.
Correct, but there's a lot of work being done in that regard.
There's a lot of work taking place, and I will say that there is still trust that has to be built up.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So there are a lot of business owners that still don't trust the institutions, right? Because they have had such negative experiences in the past, whether it be from lending or taxes or whatever. They just do not trust that BDC can provide the support that they need.
Wow.
And that's another thing of perception, which was why it was important at one point. My first EEZ office was on Union Street, Black Circle, right? I was there for about 6-7 years before we closed down, and now they've opened back up again. But you had to be in the area in order to really support the businesses. I had to be able to walk and talk and connect with the business owners every day. If you remember, when workforce development was on Reed Street Extension by DeFunds, I used to try to have job training programs. The reality is residents in the area would not walk 3-4 blocks there.
Okay, so it's being
right.
On site.
They had to be on site.
Yes.
I had to try to get workforce development to come to my office 1 or 2 days a week to have informational sessions and be able to support clients from the EEZ, because there's an element of institutional challenges that our island has had. There's trauma that is still based in a lot of the individuals and residents and business owners within the area. And so a lot of them still there is more uptake from the entire island in regards to incentives that have been developed due to research.
Yes.
As opposed to a lot of the business owners in the area of North Hamilton. There's still a level of distrust and so fear. So there are still people that, like I said, that I connect with and help on a daily basis. And then I didn't believe in sending someone, I need you to do a 3-year projection. I need you to do a 3-year balance sheet.
As a business person.
As a business owner. Okay. A lot of my business have no idea. And that once, math, once they get frustrated, they disconnect, they get fear. I'm not opening up that folder any longer.
And correct question. So, but with that, right, as a business person that's not familiar with that, what's the solution? That you say, okay, fine, don't do it, or that you provide a resource to do it on their behalf?
I did it with them.
So you mean you would help them to develop the 3-year plan because that's what's necessary?
Absolutely. So
gotcha.
For those who had a shoebox of papers, I was going through it with them.
Okay, good.
And putting it together. However, not everyone's like that.
Yes.
There are some people that I'm just going to email it to you. Right? There are some people that are going to say, I need you upload this. These people don't know what to upload anything, upload applications.
Correct. And I'm saying my Anthony point now though is that so that if a business is not used to what is a standard requirement, do you adjust the requirements or do you help them to meet the requirement? That's what I was getting. And you said that you adjust to meet the requirement.
I adjust to help because the requirement I can't meet. There's certain standards.
Yes,
right.
exactly,
There's
yes.
certain audit and there's certain things that we have to uphold to.
Yes.
Right. But if someone isn't familiar, I'm not going to leave you alone.
Yes. And I
Because
think,
you're not familiar. I'm going to hold your hand every step of the way. And that's one reason why I think I'm always going to be in this position I am, because I believe in meeting you where you're at.
yeah, and again, not you, that's for sure, but I'm talking about in terms, I think there's an important message, right? That I'm going to go into business and there are some realities that relate to my business. And so in some respects, the comment is not to adjust the requirements in a fundamental way,
Correct.
but to get Anthony to understand what's necessary.
Absolutely.
Because a different conversation, right, is that
Absolutely.
at this point in time, as you said, you employ people from young. One requirement is to pay their social insurance, not for government, but for their future retirement. And so rather than say, okay, fine, new business, don't pay the thing, you tell them or you explain to them that it's necessary and help them to be able to manage that. And so this is the reality in terms of what you need to start a business financial wise. And they do that. As opposed to saying, which is different from potentially giving a break for government taxes. So payroll tax, maybe not. But social insurance, yes, because it benefits the employee as opposed to benefiting
Right.
government.
Government.
Yeah.
Look, this trust comes from some very significant milestones in this journey with North Hamilton,
Yes.
which is political advantage and disadvantage, or whatever it was called, shenanigans. Okay, where basically it was used as a political tool, and this is not, listen, the people who were there in the initiation of the whole Uptown movement,
People on the government side or the Court
from
Street side?
Court Street side,
Yes.
they know very well, even beforehand, they were skeptical. And I remember talking to Devano Spencer of Tough Shoes, who actually said it, and I made a documentary the other day that showed what he said way back when. And he said, Elmore, it would be nice if they weren't going to set this whole thing up for failure and basically leave you hard and dry, basically. And that's exactly what happened, okay? And Roxanne knows that the Uptown Market Association, literally, right? If it wasn't for Michelle Caldoun, who told me especially, that Carlton Simmons had been given money to buy a building, okay, out of a plan that we actually developed, okay? When we who developed the plan didn't get any money, I met with Paula Cox myself and jammed my foot in the door, okay? Because the bird sang, I went to see her and said, you gave Carlton $250,000. That's how the Uptown Market Association got money. But that's not it. Then, okay, that same group withdrew money, where the association was left barren,
So hold on.
not
So
able
just-
to do any business.
So that's to do with a person, right?
No, it has to do with the organization called BSBEDC. We ended up having to make what they called, they said, the way how you're going to make money is by doing surveys for $25.
So I'm missing the point even.
The point is that you talk about trust. I'm saying the organizations, okay, the government bodies, right, have played politics. The government has played politics with North Hamilton
So the government body advanced the money to Carlton, you said, right?
to Carlton first.
But that's
Before he just came on the scene.
Right, I'm saying, but he was at that point representing the
No.
Uptown.
No,
So-
he was no.
So-
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
But
Listen,
I'm saying, so government, though, as an entity, right, gave funds to somebody
that said
And what that person did was not government
That's it.
government fault.
that
This was before the
said
designation
Right.
of the economic empowerment zone. First of all, this is before the designation.
it,
Okay.
it I don't know.
'Cause I think- 'cause I
we'll be
think-
I'm
splitting
telling you.
hairs
No,
with
no.
that.
Yeah.
But
But
my point there is that is just to make sure that we
it's not,
clarify in terms
actually.
of government as an
It's not
entity
before that time,
would have
I'm
various
saying.
agencies.
It's already
right?
documented.
Listen to me. Government would have various agencies, right? And the agencies then act. If individuals then act in a way that's contrary to what they're supposed to, that's not the government agency. Yeah. So if you come and get money from BDC, for example, right, and you misappropriate the funds, that's not the agency.
No, he didn't misappropriate funds.
So what are you commenting?
I'm sharing with you is that we who developed the plan
Yes.
for North Hamilton, who stood year on weekend off
Yes, yes.
over at BEDC, okay, basically had no funds at the end of creating a great plan.
Right.
They gave $250,000 to somebody who came to a meeting one night,
and
heard about our youth plan from his mother. Go rest her soul. She's passed now.
yeah.
However, they gave him money before they gave the Uptown.
And
So
just,
with
one quick
that,
second. So just to clarify, because this is stuff you're saying that I have no comment on, and
no, you don't have to. I'm telling you facts.
Inter communication disassociate yourself with any comments or the convictions.
No, I'm telling you facts.
That's fine. That's fine. Okay.
These
cool.
are facts.
All right, good. Okay.
Okay, and so we're talking about distrust. We're
But
talking
the-
about the way how the area has been used as a pawn. And if you think about it, okay, the facts are there in what we have in the street today.
So
the
in
facts
terms
are
of-
there with development or lack of.
So in terms,
all there.
in terms of the trust, which Roxanne spoke about earlier, there is a factual basis by which the organizations on Court Street or in Northeast Hamilton distrust government for a legitimate reason. Based upon that's one example you're talking about.
That was the legacy of
example.
what it
Okay, fine.
came through,
Okay.
right? Because the people
How do
who
we
are there
fix it
now,
then?
yeah, hang on, the people who are pretty much there now, you're really talking about resident people who would be like, okay, they don't credit business people that are don't could care less.
Okay. So let's talk
They-
solution as
they
you
could
caused it
care less.
earlier. So what is the solution to the mistrust or the distrust? How do we fix it?
My first comment would be that you have to have individuals who are trustworthy, right?
Okay.
And you have to have relationships. You cannot bring someone into the area, in my opinion,
Yeah, fine.
that is not connected to the area to now expect the business owner or resident to put their trust in you. Right? Everything is relationship management. There has to be a relationship in order to open up the door. Now, one of the things, youth advocacy is always a concern. It's always a goal. And at that point in time, there was the idea, which ended up happening, an organization called Youth on the Move. Right? Youth on the Move was a community organization that was supposed to have a home. So the idea was for people to come and get their GED, for people to do job training. There were organizations that were willing to give people jobs, but then you had lots of guys that were on the street that didn't know how to operate in a working environment. I wouldn't even say corporate, but a working environment.
Yes.
Right? Showing up on time, how to fill out an application form, how to open up a bank account. So this organization, Youth on the Move, was supposed to be a stepping stone to get you from being unemployed to being employable.
Okay.
And all of the resources it takes to help the individual get to that point. And so these funds were supposed to use to house them, to find a home to house this program, this organization that was all run by young people in different sectors that worked with the individual.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I honestly cannot say, and I honestly don't know why it didn't sustain. Right? However, that did not stop us from trying other avenues on how to support young people. Like I said, one of the things that I would do in my first EEZ office was to bring it wasn't called workforce development then, right? It was the older name then.
Yeah.
But to bring them to the area because people would not go there.
So
right?
it's-
So in order what we do, I think we have to get to know our community. We have to stop with the negative perceptions. We have to support the businesses in the area. And I'm not saying give up everything that all of your favorite stores. I'm saying come meet the people, find a new store, see the jewel, see. Listen, there are people in the area that are staples that bring you joy. I'm gonna say this, and Elmo, remember, I love Marvell, right? Those who knew Northeast Hamilton knew Marvell. You ain't gonna see a Marvell on Church Street and Front Street, but that's something of Court Street that gives you this warmth, that gives you that memory, that allows you to come back. For me, I guess loyalty is everything, and I'm loyal to the area.
Yeah.
I know the challenges of yesterday's business owners and what today's business owners are facing. So I'm always going to make myself available because I want the area to succeed. I don't have any dog in the fight,
yes.
right? But I'm committed to making sure that my island sees the riches of what 30 square blocks has. You know how many other parts of the island have tried to replicate the energy of Northeast Hamilton, and they haven't done it.
That's interesting.
You cannot live this thing in a vacuum. And the problem that we've had is that the ownership of the area combined with the non-caring attitudes of the shop owners, what's going on in the street has been the death knell of responsibility of how you carry yourself on the street and what you allow.
Okay, so quick question. Flip that.
Okay.
And give me a solution now.
Well, the solution, I'm giving it to you.
Well, 'cause so-
If the shop owners
What do I do?
not care
Okay.
about what's happening in the street, so shop owners have to care.
No. What's a concrete action I take as a shop owner to care about?
Okay,
this?
make sure nobody's hustling outside your shop.
Okay, there we go. And keep 1 second.
Yeah, right.
Quote unquote, yes.
That's one.
So no street
more
hustling.
sitting on your steps all the time or sitting in front of your shop. Then right,
Yep.
manage the addicts better, right? Be a part of creating a hustle community that they can benefit and fulfill what they need to fulfill and stay out of stay out of your customers' way.
Yes.
Right? Now, at different levels, I do it. At different levels, Gary would do it, right? But it's not enough people who just even sweep
That's right.
in
Keep
front of the
That's
who even sweep in front of the shop.
Okay.
And
Keep it clean.
and this is a part of the caring. So what has happened is, right, the street has been able to be and just be its own
Wild
animal.
West. I got you. So my point is,
And so the shop
managing
owners
time.
have to care.
So that's good. But I wanted to, like you said, and you did give some examples as to when you say care about the street. Those are some examples. So don't let there be any hustling in front of your store. Manage the addicts. Help with the hustle community so that people can do things constructive, help their needs, and keep it clean. Good ideas. That's what I'm getting at.
Keep
Wait a
it
second.
clean and care
Good
about
evening,
what your
caller.
neighbor's doing.
Welcome to Medic 102.7 on your Sunday evening. What's your question or comment?
Okay, good night, gents,
Go ahead.
and lady.
Yes, sir.
Is advertising done by the individual shops in North Hamilton,
Okay, advertising. Keep going.
or is it done as a group when reaching out to Bermuda and to the tourism world? That's one question.
Yes.
Can I answer the first one before you go?
No, keep going.
Okay,
Okay,
you're
go
gonna write
ahead.
it down.
Yeah,
Okay,
keep going.
I was told no.
No, keep going, caller.
Okay. Second, as the town crier brings tourists through, does that mean the corporation advertises the Court Street area on its own? If Court Street area is not correct, well, the North Hamilton area, whichever is more correct, does that mean that
I
does
got
the
you.
corporation advertise that area on its own?
Okay, keep going. Got you. That's the second question. Anything else?
Okay. Oh, I must have stopped right there. By
Okay, cool.
golly.
Thank you, caller. I'm trying to get him on because it's late. That's why.
Righto, cool.
Okay,
cool.
thanks.
So my
Right.
first answer is
Hold on,
business-
caller. Go ahead.
business owners advertise on their own. I
Okay.
will say that there is a business owner recently that has started to sell advertising space on their building. They don't
Okay.
own the building, but they have started to sell advertising space above their as a way of generating additional revenue. But the business owners do advertise on their own. There was a time when we collectively did advertising as a unit, because we were trying to do newsletters. This is before the advent of social media and WhatsApp or WhatsApp, whatever. So we were doing newsletters and whatnot to collectively advertise. But of course, the reality is things change. When I left the area on the day-to-day 9 to 5, there wasn't the same type of energy,
Yeah.
right, and commitment to the business owners. It was just different. And the second question was about, so corporation MBTA, they sponsor and support the walking tours that Ed does.
BTA, good, excellent. Okay,
They-
thank you,
they-
caller. Hold on.
And to piggyback on that, right?
Hold on, caller.
The BTA,
So the answer is
Right.
yes. They advertise the town crier.
BTA has not been interested in North Hamilton.
But do they advertise in context of the town crier?
I have
Yes,
no
they do.
idea.
The answer is yes.
I said I have no
Okay.
idea.
The answer, the answer is
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
fine. The answer is yes.
And to what end, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, it's not on the radar. And when they did do an advertisement, it was because somebody from St. George's moved into a spot and did a pop-up. And they came and did a food piece.
So that's an opportunity though, to get the BTA
Right.
to support.
So one,
Yes.
it's not it's not being, put on the map as a destination.
But hold on, she said they are advertising right now. They are supporting the town crier.
I said it's not in general put on the
Okay.
map as a destination.
So to piggyback off of what
It's not.
Elmore said,
From the
one
area.
of
It's
to piggyback,
Okay.
one of the things before I left BDC was I was looking at an extension of Harbor Nights, right? So the same Wednesday nights, there were enough vendors, how we have the vendor market now, to have the same type of experience on Court Street. There would be the red choo-choo train, right, that's owned by Oleander, that would take patrons from Front and Court and bring them to Victoria and Court, and they could see the experience, the pop-ups, the entertainment, etc., and take them back, right? However, the reality is once I left, that died,
Okay, but
and no one's picked it back up as a way of extending, because you see the value that Harbor Nights brings to Greater Hamilton. That value could be significant, would be significant to the business owners, the residents, diminishing even the reality of unsavory behaviors. When you have so many eyes on you from a global level, either you hide or you do things differently. You find a way to try to get your piece of the pie. In regards of real, true entrepreneurship, there's opportunity, but there has to be the interest, even so with Chamber of Commerce, to even pick this back up. And there's still the disconnect. There's still a us and them that we face. But that was the second question.
And it has to
Okay,
be
finish.
awesome there.
Let me just go to court.
it-
But it
it
can't
must
be,
be.
But it also cannot be because you left. Like it cannot be you, because that's the danger. But let me take this call. Good evening,
I
caller.
guess dangerous, but it's the facts
it,
of
it
it.
has to be
Caller.
us and them because
Go
it's
ahead,
two
caller.
different parts.
Go ahead, caller.
Yes.
You can't have it as
I
one.
must think on the brothers and the sisters there to beef up what we really need for Court Street. There's a lot of history there, right? And we
Yes.
must protect it. So I'm looking at for a solution part of this, right? Anybody heard on what's going on with corporate tax? Last time I heard, right, was in the Bermuda Monetary Authority, because I'm looking at all the information coming in, what's coming into that
Yes.
system, right? So I'm wondering, right, if members of Court Street can bite into that once it's released or check up on it.
Yes,
Because,
actually,
we need something like this to really fix up what we need to teach the next generation.
sure. And caller, I'm gonna have
Financially.
a separate
Sure.
show about that because the report was released recently, and I wanted to get
Oh,
a
yeah?
press to speak to it. Yeah, and then I can give an
When
answer to
was
you.
this?
It was released probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. All right.
But I haven't heard anything about it. So what's going on? Secret things
Yeah.
are going on?
No. Nothing secret. It
Oh,
was
okay.
released publicly in House of Assembly, right? They talked
Okay.
about it, and I'll have a show just on that. But there's nothing secret or whatever. No, there's nothing conspiracy at all.
Okay, thank you very much for clearing that up. But for
Welcome.
4th Street,
Okay.
it needs that financing
No problem.
to
Thank
really,
you.
to really get off the ground.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right?
The other thing
That is a possible solution, by the way.
the other thing is right is infrastructure, right? There's not equity of infrastructure over there. Some businesses over there have water supply. Some businesses don't. Some businesses are buying tank, trucking water in a city.
Okay.
Right? That's unheard of.
Okay,
Right?
so I got that water supply.
Water supply, right? You got all these beauty stores.
Hold on.
Not every beauty store has water supply.
I'm just going to run through all these
The-
questions now that we hear.
Hang on, let me finish this piece first. And then, right, you with that, right, the infrastructure, for instance,
You got
right,
it,
when
water.
everybody, right, water, with everybody being able to do al fresco, we can't get al fresco done.
Do you want al
Right?
fresco?
We can't get the big heavy truck, the trailer trucks to take an alternative route.
Okay.
We can't,
So give me some solutions.
Well,
So
I'm giving. There's our solutions.
it's al fresco.
Right. Just getting al fresco done. There's no
Okay, that's right.
advocacy, right, for the things that really need to take place to make change on the street.
So to be concise, so you're suggesting, or you're commenting rather, that there should be more al fresco dining, but right now it cannot take place because you have to reroute the container trucks.
No,
Two separate things.
Two separate things.
Okay, so
One
two
would
separate things.
benefit. One would
'Cause my
benefit.
question- okay.
One would benefit by slowing the traffic and those sorts of things and changing
So both
that
things, okay.
heavy thing done.
But
right?
that goes
'Cause
back
there's been
to
safety
North
issues
Hamilton
with
being a
that.
thoroughfare,
Right.
right?
Let me just, hold on. So based upon timing, we're going to have to do this show
Yes,
again, by the way.
okay, I'm
I just
sorry.
want to read some of the questions that have come in just so we can hear them. And that is that, clearly we need to make sure that we are using more facts when we speak about these things, some more research as you have referred to see what is actually factual.
She said
There's some-
data.
Yes,
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make it facts. That's just collecting stuff from people.
that's factual. If you go
No,
through
no,
and
no,
say,
no.
listen,
No, that
we're
doesn't
not-
make it factual. It makes it data that
If
you
you-
just collect.
Well-
It doesn't. It's all perceptions and opinions. It doesn't make it a fact.
If I go to 10 stores and they say I'm not opening up now because my patients are afraid, that's a fact. It's not an opinion after that. But anyway, that's the point. Let me just tell
But
you
that's
quick.
different
So
than
there
that.
is
That's a simplified. look
there is
at
there is the comment in terms of people's pharmacy. You spoke about that already. Considering legislation, they do reinforce some of your comments in terms of changing legislation to make some of these things take place.
Whose comments?
Both of you comments, you talked
Okay.
about changing legislation, which would be effective. So that's not okay. That's a comment
I would
already
stay
made.
away from legislation. Myself, we have wherever legislated as it is. What we need is people activity,
Hold
and
on,
people
hold on,
change
Colin.
your mindset. Right, our social circumstance about ourselves has to change.
Got you.
Yeah, the heavy arms and the participation of government to intervene at a social level has never worked.
Well,
It's-
quick comment.
and it
So,
will
no,
not
no,
work.
quick comment. What's your comments about having the CCT camera set up? Because this person is saying that similar to what Roxanne said earlier, if the cameras were there, people will act differently just because they know they're being watched. Do you have a support or do you have a comment about cameras in the area?
Yeah, they have one. I know some people who have acted differently already. However, that's in regard to not taking responsibility of what I said. How you're met is how you're kept. If a new person comes in the area, and all of a sudden
Listen,
somebody,
do you support cameras in the area? Yes or no? That's what I'm asking.
like I said, these are not just simple yes and no answers. We would like them to be, right? But they're not. If a person takes responsibility, right, for what they need, because it's pointing to the same thing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Cameras are not going to stop crime. They haven't done in any place
right.
in the world.
So if you had to answer the question, then would you support cameras in the area? That's
I
all.
do.
Yes?
I do.
I really don't care.
Okay, cool. And this one's just going through a comment in terms of
They haven't shown to be a benefit.
well, this person's using the UK as an example. I remember in London where they're having issues with crime. They put some cameras up and they just made people act different. So you're right. They may move the activity, but it might not actually stop the activity, which is
Can't stop it.
sometimes it's counterproductive.
You can't stop it.
But again,
That's
I'm
why
happy
the-
that
the
people at least making these comments.
Yeah, but we when we're talking about solutions, right?
Okay, that's
We have to
fine.
direct it
Mr. Mikes.
into the community and into the stakeholders, right? That have to change their mindset about how they do things.
Understood.
And until we do that, right? Until that happens, right? And nobody can walk down the street and just say, "Hey, is somebody hustling from out of your place?" Is somebody hustling from out of your bar? Is somebody hustling from out of so-and-so? Like, if we don't have these accountabilities like we have on one side of the street, as opposed to people who are afraid to say something on another side of the street, it's different. Why? Because there's more gaps on the other side of the street. That's another thing. It's not as many businesses.
Okay.
It's not as many commerce, happening
Sometimes,
that way.
let me just ask a question. So, are you saying now that there is less accountability on one side as opposed to the other side, given that there is more activity on the eastern side?
Let's say the benefit, right, is having more businesses, even
Okay.
though there's accountabilities on the other side too. It's just that everybody's still a part of the same. Most of the people are still a part of the same thinking process. It doesn't matter as long as it's not in my shop.
So
That's the key factor here.
So right now, are we at a point? Your position is that we're at a point whereby people are still being individualistic rather than collective.
Yes, very
And
much
so there's
so.
a need to improve or increase the collective responsibility for the whole area.
Very much so.
Okay, cool. All right, that's a good point.
Very much so.
Cole, you might be the last one for this evening. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, good evening again.
Good evening.
You would notice that in the city, you the city guys cleaning the sidewalks, the walkways, everything, Front Street, Victoria Street, Ridge Street. You never see that around
Okay.
what you
Street.
call it, North Hamilton, Court
Yes.
Street. You
Yes.
never see it. I myself approached the corporation about this, and they told me no. There was no reason why. Nothing, just no.
Can I actually tell them no for what? What did you approach the corporation with? I just want to know.
To clean the
To
streets,
put a proposal together to clean,
sweep the streets.
be clean, the sidewalks
Interesting.
and walkways around it because they're filthy, they're dirty.
Hey, boy.
Why would there be a proposal in terms of they should clean the streets? It's part of
Listen,
Hamilton.
that's right now.
Thank you, Cole.
That's a being.
Sorry, Cole. That's your final comment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's a good point. Thank you very much.
That's a bane of existence, right? In that one, right, that I'm even dealing with right now. Once again, in terms of individuals, right, as opposed to the collective. Street smelling as foul as it ever. I've never smelled the street smell so foul. Calling the corporation has to do with a truck that comes up there that doesn't have proper seals in it, dumps all the sludge all out in the street, right? As it presses, no washing takes place.
So tell us the
Right.
comment though. So you're saying that you contacted the corporation already to clean the streets?
They've been contacted. We
Okay.
didn't have a street sweeper for the longest time, but we have one, and we've been having it in the recent times, so it's been much better, right? And now we're dealing with, which they are on, and they are, trying to solve that part of the problem. They got new trucks coming and so on and so forth,
Right.
right? Which would hopefully be a part of that. However, it's still not getting equity. It's still not getting the same airs.
So,
It's still not getting
question.
the same attention.
So is it still that the Court Street area are not having the same benefits from the Corporation of Hamilton as the main, as you call Greater Hamilton?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
what is your solution to that? What is the solution to making sure there's
Advocacy just
accuracy?
continued. Just more people need to advocate, and not enough, right? That's why I talked about advocacy. Not enough people advocate. So it's, when I go in front of the corporation, Hamilton, you know what they say? You need to have more people. Okay, fine. Like I'm not supposed to be just always the rallying cry. I've taken enough.
So at this
pills
point in
for
time,
that.
so I'm asking, so at this point in time then, is it that the,
don't care.
I guess the association is not as fully supported as it should be?
What's the association? There's no association.
So it doesn't exist anymore?
There hasn't been an association for more than 10, 15 years.
Wow. Okay. So
There's
is
no
there,
association in that regard.
so is that one of the first steps then, trying to get the businesses in the area to work together?
I feel there's no formal association as what Elmo and I had with the Uptown Market Association.
Okay.
I want to say that the last 2 years, a few business owners have come together to try to start the markets.
Okay.
Right? And so that has been a first step. But that still has been very localized, and only certain businesses have been involved in that. there is not a body that does the lobbying as what the Uptown Market Association used to do. They're not there yet.
Okay.
But
And they're not going to get there.
Okay.
Not under the
I'm-
current structure.
I'm more optimistic.
These are facts. though.
Right?
Okay.
I believe you have to crawl before you walk.
Yes.
And they're starting all over again. You have a lot of new business owners that have never worked in this environment before and are not sure of the history, not sure how to make it work, and not sure of all of the resources out there. So they're learning, right? They're learning. I'm hopeful that it can happen. I'm hoping that the business owners stay in the area. Like I said, I do know of 2 that are leaving before the end of the month.
Okay.
Right? But like Elmore said, when businesses leave, another one will come.
Yeah.
Right? However, I love legacy. Right? So I want to see the 5, 10, 15, 20, 50-year businesses in the area that become the staples, that you form the relationships with, where you know every shift that the different people are working on. You know the business owners. That builds the trust.
Yeah.
That builds the support. That builds the person. Okay, I closed at 7:00, but I may stay open to 8:30 because I know that you don't finish your shift right now because I trust you,
Yes.
because there's that relationship. So that's what has happened, and I would like to see it come back.
Okay, great. All right. There's been very significant conversation for sure. Lots have been learned, and people sending in comments, and so I know we are all listening and learning, hearing different ideas. And again, what I said earlier, the person should be asleep by now, but is to know that different opinions are important because it does breed additional conversation and learning. That's what's important to me also. But we're past the normal hour.
You're
And I
past the hour?
Give each, well, the 2 hours. It's well past 10.
Oh,
But
mercy.
I will give you each a opportunity to close any comments you want to have, and I'll think through now potentially a different show that talks more about the Uptown area because there's so much more information, especially as you said earlier, in terms of, we've done it before, but do it again in terms of people understanding what is the history of various places there. And your comment also in terms of the lack of diversity needs to have some more exploration because let's say, for example, the area can become known for acts. If it's strong enough, then that might be a solution also. But any final comments?
Listen, 30 years.
What happened to ladies first?
30 years. No. I'm from the East. See how I'm dressed right now? Hey, Wena.
No, go.
Wait.
Go.
Hey, Wena.
Go.
Listen. At the end of the day, right? It's 30 years since we've had a government that looks like us. Yeah. And their home has been at the foot of TOC on an angle. And that's a sad commentary, right? To look at an area, okay, that really participation has been very little.
Okay.
The incremental pieces that have happened have been unsustainable and literally to date you have no reference, right, that anything was ever done when you walked on the street. You just have no reference.
And so my question, I'll
right?
flip that to something positive.
So hang on. We always want to hear that there's this positive thing. Well, let me
Yes.
tell you something. Look at the street today, right? We could get there, and if we want kudos for something, look at the street today, and tell me like what is it like what is it about positivity that you want to hear besides people in business, right? They're making money. Some are struggling, right? Hence, some have come, some are gone. Some are gonna leave because of a shooting, right? But when you're talking about positive, like, what do you want to say? Look at the social circumstance. Hang on. Look at the social circumstance, and then look at the growth. Just look at growth in the area, right? And then tell me that all the things that were ever done.
No, fine. If your point is that
Have
there's
a-
nothing positive, fine.
No, but look at. I'm
That's fine.
saying
No,
be
that's
open.
fine. That's fine. Okay.
Look at it and
That's your
tell
comment.
me, right, where it's at. No, as we move forward, we need to look at how we establish ourselves as a community,
Okay,
as a
fine.
village,
Okay.
right? So I've started, once again, I did a lot of research on what does it take for us to really work together, because That is the piece, and have our individual success inclusionary in that collective, right?
Okay.
Because I can't watch Roxas Pocket, right, and then be a part of the group and then bring it all together. Those things have actually killed us. So we need to look at how we work together. So the Susu Village, which is what we're doing, is launched not on any public space, but on private space on the corner of Victoria and Court. And it's the Susu Market, Susu Village, right? And right now we have 2 vendors. It'll take 2 more. We're going to be looking at how we actually grow this village with principles and values, right, that we all will adhere to, that are going to allow us to actually work together to grow this village.
Okay, cool. So
And
your solution is
raise the
that.
children.
Okay,
Oh
cool.
no, it's because it's all in the relationships.
No, I'm saying, I think so. For me, that is what I was getting at. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
At this point in time, you see
Yeah.
that nothing's been done, and the Susu Village is the solution.
It's
What-
one
what
piece
that you're working on.
that we're working on.
And where is it physically?
One piece
How
is
is it?
on Victoria and Court, right on the Smith's property, right? And the spirit in which that we got that property,
Victoria and Court.
Victoria and Court, right opposite the police
Right.
channel, right across,
Yes.
like diagonal,
Oh, yes.
diagonal from the police,
Across from St. Paul's.
across from St. Paul's,
I got it.
yeah, right through the way,
Yeah.
right? And the Smith family, legacy Dr. Smith,
Cool. All
right?
right.
His granddaughter now is, a part of that legacy, and she is for the progress of our people
Cool.
in
So that's
that
the
area.
So look out for that.
And so that's happening.
Okay.
It happens on Thursday afternoons. It happens on Friday afternoons, and we're going to be doing events in the evening and Saturdays, and then we'll
Thursday,
be doing
Friday,
stuff
Saturday.
on Sundays too. We're going to be holding events there, entertainment, drums, spoken speeches, and it's all about our melanin Afro-Caribbean empowerment.
Okay, got
right?
it.
So that's what
That's it.
I'm
Got it.
doing,
Well done.
right? With a group. And this was, like I said, it was funded. The initial initiation of the research about pulling together the Susu Village was funded by Centennial Trust,
Got it.
who
What-
I did these workshops and did a study.
What's the main contact if somebody wants to find out more information about this?
333-7374. They could call me.
333.
37374. Hit up Fresh TV, Bermuda online,
Okay. All
Dim
right.
Celestia online.
Any final comments, Ms. Christopher?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Right? I really appreciate the opportunity as always to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. Northeast Hamilton, as I've said countless times, is a jewel within Bermuda. There is no place like it. There is no other part of the island can replicate it. I encourage you, Bermuda, to find your favorite store. Support your favorite business. Come to the area. Walk in the area. Meet the residents and the business owners in the area. Your life will never be the same. in a positive way.
Yeah.
I believe in Northeast Hamilton. I come from a time, one of my dear friends, I remember several years ago at this point, she got her PhD from Johns Hopkins. And there was this big thing in the newspaper, girl from Bacatan got her PhD. Like that was so surprising. Why is it we can't have educated, brilliant people that are born and raised and, live their life in Northeast Hamilton? Why is it that we're supposed to be less than? And it's this big news that someone is educated and articulate from our area. Don't shortchange us. Know that the best and the brightest and the Mecca of Bermuda came from these central parishes.
Yep.
Came from Dock Hill, came from Teals Hill, came from Court Street. This is the Mecca of black wealth. Let's not forget our history. And Bermuda, I love you. I believe in you. I believe in Court Street. I believe in our businesses. I believe in our residents. And, I'm always going to be a staple in the area. I'm always going on the block. I'm a girl from the block. I got my dinner. I got my cocktails. I did my homework. I did it through Berkeley, through grad school, from everything on the block. And my son will be the same way. So that's going to be generational love for Northeast Hamilton.
All right. Well, to both of you, I'll say thank you. It's been refreshing for sure, to be honest, to learn all these different things and have the conversation. And I think, if I'm honest about this also, right, it's for Bermuda to understand how we have a conversation that doesn't necessarily agree. I think that's what we don't have enough of. We don't have enough real conversation. We don't have enough of the counteraction of this block thing. In terms of everybody thinking the same thing. If I don't think what you think, then something's wrong. I mean, we have to understand this is how we actually mature and we make progress.
Keyword.
And also, I think,
understanding.
pardon?
Keyword understanding.
Understand, yes.
Yeah.
And I think no, I think for sure it's to no matter what we all do individually, is that we can be constructive. And now I'll go back to what I said earlier because I think that we may have missed the point in Bermuda is I need to get my answer and then you'll know how you can assist me or not. Because what we do sometimes is we talk at a problem. It's Audi just ask me. I'm the person that has an issue. Ask me, Anthony, what I need and explore that.
That
And
part.
then we have a better solution because
That part.
if you look at me and you tell me the solution, it may have nothing to do with my problem. You know what I mean? And so you cannot prescribe a solution for Anthony that's based upon Elmore, for example. So at least ask me. And I've been very, it's been very interesting, I would say for myself, from what you said earlier, in terms of listening what's in the public arena around this whole crime aspect. In terms of, yes, clearly the actual murders are in Court Street and not the, as you call the greater Hamilton area. But if you look at it more broadly, the crime is not more significant in Court Street than it is elsewhere. And each of you said that, well, you said that there are people that are being told not to go to Court Street because of being fearful. Your point, Elmore, was that that may be the case, but we did not start that. It was started by others. And clearly, the real message now is that Court Street is as safe as anywhere else because you're not going to have issues if you go down there. I mean, sometimes, yes, there are people in the street in your way, but, you know, from my own experience, they're not going to be rude and stand in your way. If you say move or something, they're going to move. And so we can do that. And I think the final comment I'll make, which is very interesting, is for those that have businesses in the area to take more responsibility. You know what I mean? Keep your place clean. Don't sit there and say, well, it's not touching me, so don't worry about it. No, let's be the collective. Because always, if we act together, we can make much, much more progress. To Bermuda, I'll say thank you again for joining us here on Magic 102.7. Sorry, on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight. It's been truly, truly a blessing to be here tonight. And for those of us that travel on the roads, whether you're walking or running or jogging, even cycling, now it's getting dark earlier and later. You know what I mean? Like, so the morning is dark and night is dark. Please, please, please wear a high visibility vest or a light or something so people can see you because they need to have as much notice as possible. And for others, you're talking about people riding on these sidewalks in Court Street. Now people popping wheelies everywhere in Bermuda, even young people. And I'm saying we got to be a little bit more sensible because the last thing you want to do is have a collision. Because an accident happens by accident, but a collision may do something crazy and cause it to be a collision. And so let us please act together. And for the entire population that's now going back to school, you're back in school now for, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks. Please, please, please be focused on learning. For parents, prepare your children to go to school to learn and support the education system because that's where we're going to actually have a lot more success. And it doesn't mean academic success. It's whatever success it is, but at least have your children go to school and be prepared to learn. And the very last thing I'll say is for educators, please recognize that children learn differently. So don't expect them all to come and learn the same way. Try your best, and there's a lot of work. Try your best to understand these children so you can impart and they can then succeed in the success. And so with that, Bermuda, good night and thank you. It's actually 10:30. Glenn Blakely, thank you for you and your wife for allowing us to have flexibility. And for the entire Inter-Island Communications family, we do thank you for all that you do. And we trust that Bermuda will have a good night and a good week. Until next week, Bermuda, thank you, thank you, thank you.